Welcome, Ultra-ers and Switchy sisters alike, to episode 5 of the weekly episodic gaming-adjacent live stream podcast show. This is Switch to Ultra, the second and final, maybe, Super Tuesday. Moving forward, we will be returning to the coveted Monday night slot as April comes to a close. After tonight, there will be only 5 Mondays before the actual release of the Nintendo Switch 2. 4 weeks of May, and 1 at the very start of June. Between last week and this episode, the pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 went live in America and seemingly sold out almost instantly, in what is sure to mark a very bombastic launch on day one, God help us. But before we can get into that, welcome to the Switch 2 Ultra family. I am your co-parent BH Ultra.
And I am your co-parent Switchy.
A couple updates before we jump into the pre-order discussion. Due to the passing of the former Pope Francis over Easter weekend, the only holiness to ever be gifted a physical copy of Undertale by a YouTuber, and yet never got to see how Deltarune finished. Hoping to be prepared for June 5th in more ways than one because of Deltarune. I never really asked, but do you have any relationship with Undertale or Deltarune, Switchy?
Oh, a very, very deep relationship with Undertale, at least.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Undertale when it first came out. And I remember 2018, I remember the day Deltarune Chapter 1 came out, and I played it, and it was good. I think because it was just a small part of a bigger whole, there were things that I wasn't super keen on, at least in the sense of it didn't have that, like, the real magic that Undertale had, at least for me. I will say, though, I think a big part of that is just because, at least within the story of Deltarune so far, nothing's really reached its climax. It's still kind of just like fun and feel good so far.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I love so much about Undertale is both, the cute parts and, I think the drama and the I guess showmanship of it. I love the genocide route. I love the pacifist route. I think it's just an interesting game. And right now, at least so far is an important kind of point. Right. We're not quite like there yet in terms of, I think, the cool, like, metafiction kind of elements of Deltarune. And I guess I'm a little bummed out, to be honest with you, that we're 7 years into this and we're still, like, barely started. And that's been kind of, at least for me personally, a little bit of a bummer, because it feels like there's, like, been for the better half of a decade, this entire fandom built off of a game that hasn't even really gotten off its feet yet. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I might get shit on for that.
I've heard worse takes about Deltarune, but not that that's a bad one, like, in general, but yeah, it gets worse. To my extent of knowledge about Deltarune is that, like, that was always the game that Toby Fox wanted to make, and kind of just, like, I don't know how Undertale came to be, like, accidentally developed that, and what I'll say is I kind of missed the boat for a long period of time, because I have played a little bit of Undertale, but I wasn't playing it when the boom happened, like when it first came out, because there was a period of time I got my first computer tower, like, of my own when I was making videos in, like, 2022, maybe late 21, but I had a personal laptop.
What did you use before that? A laptop?
Just, like, a personal laptop, and then, like, a gaming laptop. I use a Predator brand laptop. So every time you start it up, it just the, like, how gaming PCs are. It plays the logo, and then it says Predator in very bold text. I can't really open it around people because it's a really unfortunate logo and branding. But for a large period of time, just didn't have, like, a computer that could really run anything. I think I made a Steam account in, like, 2018, 2017, something like that. And I was, like, trying to play things on my laptop. There was, like, give or take, sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. But a large part of my adolescence, or rather my teen years, was just playing whatever they had on console and watching a lot of content creators make content about the same handful of games, and Gmod was a big one, where it was like, oh, you play GTA Online and Minecraft and Gmod, and I had Minecraft and GTA Online on my Xbox that I would play with my friends in Xbox parties, but I never had Gmod. Like, I missed out on that entirely, and I've only really gotten into, like, playing it recreationally with friends in the last year, like, learning how it works, and it just, like, totally passed me by. So there was a period of time where, like, exclusive PC gaming, if it wasn't, like, on a console somewhere, I just wouldn't have played it. So Undertale, I think it did get ported pretty early, if I'm remembering that. I mean, it was a huge phenomenon. Yeah, but it's every...
Yeah,
No, go ahead.
No. I mean, I just kind of want to respond to Ash.
Hmm.
Is it? I assume she. I don't want to, make that assumption. Ash is bringing up how
In the Twitch chat,
well,
yes.
first of all, they like Deltarune more, and I'm being a little hard. I think what I would say about Deltarune isn't necessarily that it's like a huge problem with the game in the sense that like it's a flaw that goes okay, good. It's not like like deeply flawed in a way that like destroys my enjoyment of it. I guess like when the first chapter came out, it was good fun. Then I waited 3 years.
Yeah.
And then the second one came out. It's still pretty fun. I decided to play all of, because I've played chapter one like 3 or 4 times now. So I replayed chapter one, then played
Hmm.
chapter two. And I guess like because of this gradual release process, there's never been a point in time where I've been obsessed with Deltarune, if that makes sense. Because I think
Hmm.
just for me and the way I kind of play games that I really love, it usually comes in like large bursts. So I
Yes.
never really, I think that's the main thing. Because Undertale was a game that, I remember when the first time I ever played Undertale, it was, I got to the first final boss, Flowey, within a day. I mean, it's not like a super long game, but I was hooked. And because Deltarune, at least so far, it's bits and pieces. I guess I just never really fell in love with it in the way I did Undertale, because I think there's a lot of really cool stuff about the game. I don't know. I think just for me, I'm not super big on the episodic thing.
Well, it's
And
been
like
to my
uh
understanding, or it was prior to not being last year. It was like every 3 years. Like Undertale came out in 2015,
yeah,
and then Deltarune Chapter One was 18, and then Chapter Two was
2018,
2021.
21.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and now we're coming up on 25.
And I
And
guess two chapters at once is a little bit better.
yes, which is probably why the wait has felt a
I
lot.
guess
I mean, it has been the longest wait.
there's something a little bit like disheartening, I'm gonna be totally honest, when I
Hmm.
boot up my Switch or play Deltarune on it, or maybe I think it's coming out on PC too, I'd assume at least.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, wow, the first time I played Deltarune was when I was a senior in high school.
Hmm.
Like
That's the
there's
thing is that
something a little like
I
that
and when
crushes me a little bit about that.
yeah, but it
Sorry.
also is sort of fun. I like that a little bit. Like it takes me, maybe it's just coping,
Okay.
but it takes me forever to like beat games on stream. And then sometimes I'll beat it, like instead of just dedicating an entire month to beating it, which I'm gonna try and do with Doom when it comes out in May. Because I normally play it on a day.
Hmm.
Like I pick a day, like, oh, I play this game every Wednesday or every other Wednesday or something. Then I'll complete the game and then I'll be like, oh, let me look at like the first time I started this, and it was like a year or like years prior. Like for the Kick the Bucket countdown the other day, I went back to Pikmin 4, which is not a game I ever finished, but like I rediscovered my love for it. I'm like, man, I really want to 100% this game. And I started that, it was like summer 2023, which is coming up on like 2 years ago almost.
Wow.
But I
Yep.
started, I'm a little, I mean, not frustrated, but it is what it is. There's so many things there's so little things when the Switch 2 launches that I feel the full brunt of the launch and play everything it has to offer, which seems like a lot, but in the grand scheme of launches really isn't. But all my Deltarune progress I made last year. I like started Deltarune for the first time last year, doing chapter 1 and 2. And what I wanted to say before that is that I think it's a difference of story and gameplay. And I know you, like before you were an Undertale fan or any of that, you were a Mother fan. Like you really liked the Mother
Yeah,
games.
I was gonna bring that up.
Hmm.
Because there's a similar, I guess I would say the word dichotomy about it with Earthbound and Mother 3 and
Yes.
Undertale and Deltarune in a certain way. I think that one of my favorite things about Undertale specifically, I don't know. I mean, is there more you want to say? Because this might take like a minute for me to
I
kind of
do,
like.
but you just go first.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Because I think like Deltarune certainly has a lot more showmanship in a similar way to Mother 3. I think there's a certain gameplay loop to Undertale that I really like, and it's similar to Earthbound in the way that your player character. Well, I mean, your player character in all games is effectively silent. Lucas has a couple lines in Mother 3,
Hmm.
but because Undertale, it's usually just Frisk and one other character. I like that style of writing, like the character just talking to a basically a silent protagonist.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, with Deltarune, there's like a whole cast of characters, and that's fun in its own way. I think for some reason, like the more intimate kind of where you feel like where there's more of like a relationship between the game and the player in a certain way. I've always liked that style of writing a lot. And
Yes.
I don't know if it's something that can be channeled as much when the games are more kind of narratively complex with more figures.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think like one minor thing about
It seems like
Deltarune, which isn't
most
like
of the
a
best lines
complaint I
from
have. It's more so just
Undertale are like flavor text. Like that's what I see posted the most. Is not a character talking to
despite everything, it's
protagonists.
still you. You know
Yeah,
what I
stuff
mean?
like that. Where I fall
Like
on it
I've
is that
always
I
loved that style of yeah.
mm-hmm. No, I was just gonna
No,
say
you can
I
go, you can go, you can go.
yeah.
I'm just never.
You're good. It really just comes down to a simple gameplay loop for me, and there's no such thing as a solved game. This is kind of a fallacy that people talk about a lot. But I feel like if I began Undertale, which I have before, like on my Switch at some point, I played a little bit of it, that there's sort of, at least to me, I'm probably wrong in other people's stances, but like a sort of lack of freedom that I know that like everything I decide to kill or spare will like push me in a certain direction. So I do kind of like that there isn't an ending to Deltarune quite yet, and that's what I wanted to say earlier about the Switch launch. Is I did my entire save file on PC. And I don't know if like you have to buy chapter 3 and 4 as a different package again, or if you have Deltarune chapter 1 and 2 on the Switch, you could just play it on the Switch too. It might be an entirely new game. But when chapter 3 and 4 come out, I don't want to play the game from the beginning. I want to leave off where my save was. And I think that's really fun to like go back to a save every I mean, it doesn't impact me as much, I guess, because I played it for the first time last year, so I'm like, oh man, a year wait, how fun. I imagine if you were waiting the full 3 or 4 years, it'd be a lot more frustrating. But to me,
Yeah.
so I'm going to play Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4 on PC instead of on the Switch because I don't want to start from the beginning because some of, you never know what decisions you made might be important and might not be. But I just prefer I haven't played a lot of Undertale, so it's possible that Undertale does have much better writing, and I could concede to that. But the thing that hooked me more about Deltarune is the like individual gameplay loop. I like the battle system more. I think it's a lot more maybe simple isn't the right idea, but the fact that I can, and I know this is what the game goes against anyway, but just mindlessly kill things without have to worry about where I'm landing in the story and just let it unfold in front of me. And I like secret bosses, which I know Undertale has a lot of. Really, it's just a very simple change for me is that I like the gameplay loop and the battle system of Deltarune more, of what I've played. Maybe it's worth, like, Undertale is worth just looking into. Because I always feared while playing it that, like, I would mess up one thing or, like, decide to kill one thing and then I would be barred from other endings in their entirety. I don't know exactly how it works, but it always seemed like something that's already
Yeah.
been fully dug into.
Yeah, that's never been a problem for me, at least with Undertale. And this isn't me like, I don't know. I've heard people say that they find Undertale kind of repetitive or boring. Never been a problem for me. Like not even close. Like I think part of it is I like the simplicity of Undertale too. I like kind of the fact that like the corridors are kind of narrow. I don't know if I guess like that's a minor thing for me. Undertale is better right now on story, but Deltarune base got 4 Undertales worth of gameplay to get up on that. Yeah, I mean that's a big thing. I think that
are the chapters
like,
as long as Undertale?
I mean, to be honest, like I think both chapters maybe take like 2 hours to beat. I mean, a little bit less. If you're like me and you like talking to everyone and doing everything, it's a little bit longer.
Oh,
You can kind of power through them. And the game, for what it's worth, I think Toby, the way the games are developed, they're made with kind of like avoiding jank and shit in mind. I think I just never found Undertale even like a little bit boring. I can't think of like maybe there's like one area, but like I don't know, like the dungeons are like 15 minutes usually. It's always been very approachable to me. So I don't know. I guess the point I'm making is that like Deltarune. I mean, I don't even. There probably is a certain extent to where there's like a little bit less like dumb crap in it for a lot of people, but it's never been like a problem for me.
I think we're comparing about which one is better. I don't think either of our arguments is that like Undertale is bad or that Deltarune is bad. It's more of just a comparison of two really good games,
I'm more just...
or one of them is like fantastic, one of the best. Because like again, I haven't played a lot of Undertale, but there are some games that you understand, even like at the time or in general, how impactful they were. And it's impossible for Deltarune to have as much impact as Undertale because Undertale came first, and it's way more important and had much more of a moment.
Yeah. There's probably an element of that too, because I remember when I first played Undertale, there were like things that were said in the game and things that were done in the game that I'd never seen a game do. And that's, I think, a thing that just generally sequels struggle with, where like a lot of core ideas of a series, or even this isn't necessarily just a gaming thing, they hit the hardest the first time you see them.
Yes.
And potentially because of that, I think some people might feel a little bit. I'm imagining I've never found sorry, I got distracted. I
You're
think
good.
like
If you're responding in chat, though, you
I
should
forgot
just
the
read
point
it
I
in
was making.
full. The Twitch
Yeah,
chat says,
imagine the
imagine,
Undertale is
yeah.
too repetitive. People just accidentally went the super evil killer route and are very confused by your whimsical mentality of the game. Yeah, I mean, for me, like I've never, even the genocide route was never like too bad for me. Like I think I think this is also me being a guy who plays a good amount of janky kind of old school RPGs that ask you to do like the dumbest crap possible. Like
Yeah, I
I'm
think
used to enduring.
that's maybe why I like Deltarune more. Is it's got a little bit of Paper Mario where it feels like I have no I love Pokemon games and I have no dislike of JRPGs. Like I'm not the kind of person. The kind of RPGs I like are more like Undertale and Deltarune, where they're kind of more retro. I like that top-down grid-based format when it comes to RPGs like that.
Same,
But
100%.
you're like as opposed to like your modern personas or something that I don't really love. But I do think what hooks Deltarune more for me is kind of that, for lack of a better term, like a babification that is present in like Mario and Luigi and like Paper Mario, where it's not dumbed down, but it feels more like a more traditional video game as opposed to the more turn-based aspect. And Undertale has a lot of that too. Like moments in Undertale just feel like a platforming section or a rhythm section. I think I'm just more excited
Yeah.
because I'm freshly into it now, where this is going to be my first time playing anything like this in Undertale or Deltarune, where I'm experiencing it conversely with everyone else. Although I'll probably be a little bit behind because I'm going to dedicate like a good couple days to the Switch too, and I won't even think about going over to my computer. I think it's going to get washed out a
Yeah.
little bit,
Yeah.
but I'm glad it's launching with it. I think it's cool. I don't know if that, I mean, I imagine that's like a Toby decision and less like Nintendo reaching out because, when you're so
Sorry,
inspired
you
by
cut
the,
out for a second. What'd you say?
oh, I imagine that's just like a straight up Toby decision. Like it wasn't even Nintendo specific. I mean, I'm sure they wanted him, but like asking for that exclusive reveal, not exclusive release, but exclusive reveal in the Direct that makes the Direct seem that much bigger because he's just like such a huge fan of Nintendo. It's all over him. And that's the extent of my knowledge when it comes to overarching lore, just stories I find interesting.
I don't know if you can hear me. My Wi-Fi is getting really spotty. I'm gonna call you back.
Okay,
Sorry.
no worries. What I was saying is that I'll just say this out to the public, is the prospect of characters like Sans and Papyrus have existed in popular internet culture for me just by like happenstance. Like I know who Sans is because people put, also because he's in Smash Bros, but I knew him before then. The prospect that Sans and Papyrus might actually be from the world of Deltarune and not from the underground, and we get to learn more about those characters and it's slowly building up to that. I want to see where it goes. And I like all the individual secret bosses. The extent of what I got into Deltarune was in like 2021 when Chapter 2 came out, and everyone was still in lockdown, and there were a bunch of Germa edits. Germa was playing it and did a really fantastic Spamton voice, and that is all I knew. And I see people posting about it still, and I think there is something to a fan base that doesn't get any new content, that doesn't cannibalize itself, that slowly develops new ideas, maybe not literal memes or just like things to fill the gaps. And that's why I find Super Smash Brothers Melee really interesting, is a fighting game that people have continued to play for decades, that never got any patches beyond like re-releases, that are still developing the meta of the game as they like discover weird stuff in it. That's another game that people say is solved. I don't think there is such thing as a solved game. Maybe a video game where like, oh, we've learned the most overpowered character and now no one can beat it, and you could just do this one technique. Like, I'm sure there have been games like that, where you learn like Bayonetta in Smash 4, where you learn one game-breaking technique. But if people kept playing that game for long enough, I imagine they would have developed a meta around that character. That is the extent of how I feel about Deltarune, beyond being excited.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
the extent of
that's
my
effectively
knowledge
what happened.
from Undertale came from, like, game theory videos, which I don't necessarily love the guy, but I don't think that's even a bad theory. I'll say it. I think he got a lot of flack for that one. It's way funny that he did gift Pope Francis a copy of the game. That's the reason I brought it up.
That was honestly chill of him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what else was he gonna? What did the other YouTubers give to him? Did we ever learn that? Because there was a bunch of
I
YouTubers
don't
that
know,
got to meet
actually.
him. Surely there were other gifts,
Was
frankincense
it?
and myrrh and whatnot.
Let me search it up. YouTuber Pope gifts.
Well, what I wanted to say before I
Oh,
interrupted
never mind.
myself,
I'm not. I'm not. No, no. Sorry. I was just kind of like I was like looking it up real quick if there was like some quick information, but I looked it up. I looked up YouTuber Pope gifts, and there's like only stuff from the past like 4 days ago because YouTube because Google hears me type that and they think I just mean YouTube Pope gifts, so they're just thinking of like the Pope and the
Right.
gifts like or like
get
things
gifts
he's
for the
kind of
YouTube
said.
Pope.
There.
Who is the YouTube
Yeah.
Pope? Because there's the Dorito Pope. This is entirely different. Anyway, I wanted to talk more about Undertale and Deltarune, but I was cutting myself off because, like many, I saw a clip posted to Twitter of Pope Francis exorcising Taylor Swift after he died in a song parody I remember watching as a kid. And then I fell down the rabbit hole of this creator. Last episode on the #1 video podcast, fully backed by China, which is ours, I accidentally implied that Brock Baker, the guy who does funny voices online, was the guy who defected to China to make propaganda. I was incorrect. It was Bart Baker. And I now know that because I spent what time I had today listening to all of the song parodies he made that I loved as a kid. Did you ever watch Bart Baker? That was a big part of my...
A little bit, but not extensively. I'm thinking of one video that I think might have been him, but I might be mixing it up with someone else.
Maybe.
Let me see.
There's whenever people talk about the timeline of YouTube, they're like, yeah, people were making sketch comedy, and then video game Let's Plays became really popular. But there was an era in like the mid 2010s where everyone was making music or song parodies. I think because the most views on videos on YouTube were like music videos. So there was an entire industry on YouTube of song parodies. And I would watch like Bart Baker and the Key of Awesome and Shane Dawson, I guess a lot. A lot of it is...
Make Me Bad 305 did it too, I think.
And then I also watched some Computer Nerdo 1, but those were like purposefully shitty. What I wanted to, like, in comparison to Shane, there's a lot of YouTubers' content or talk about YouTubers' content aging poorly. And after watching all these Bart Baker parodies, this isn't even that. Every single one of the song parodies, at least the ones I watch, is so full of like vitriol towards so many women. Taylor Swift I couldn't give less of a shit about, but it made me realize a lot about the conversation around Miley Cyrus when Wrecking Ball came out. I remember that being such an infamous thing. And I love that song still to this day.
Misogyny?
Yes. I don't know if you know this, but some people hate women still. Like, still to this day. It's crazy. But specifically, well, it happens recently as well with, like, Sabrina Carpenter, where I don't understand why people are shocked by this every time there's a Disney or Nickelodeon star that starts doing provocative things. And I don't even, well, never mind. I was going to say Sabrina. I don't think Sabrina's particularly provocative, but I mean, not in like her music
I
as
would
it
say she is.
Right, but like that's like the bit she does on
very much in her music.
Yeah, that's the bit she does on stage now. It's the part of positions. She is a very provocative artist, but I don't know why people are clutching their pearls like this person used to be on the Disney Channel, as if this hasn't happened every decade prior. This has kept happening.
It's a pretty common thing, and I think it's, I mean, there's probably an argument to make that I think they might kind of lean into that in order to get a reaction, or they kind of do it to kind of go like fight back against the previous kind of, I suppose, aura they have of being child friendly or like only a kid or something like that. There is something frustrating about the amount of especially back then in those videos, the amount of hatred that people had for the figures who did pop music. I think obviously one of the biggest examples is like Justin Bieber, this like 15-year-old child that people would like call homophobic slurs and say they wanted to kill him. It's like, that is honestly an era. I mean, to be honest, there's it's not like we're done with people saying terrible things on the internet, but I think that specifically is an element of pop culture cynicism that we're gladly rid of the kind of just, these like dumb, like crappy pop stars who suck. I think the poptimism going on right now in a lot of ways is a little bit more palatable to me personally than the kind of like terrible things people would say,
I
you
do
know,
remember
12,
in the
15 years
peak
ago.
of that era of pop music that like the discourse was like, oh man, this isn't like this is the death. This is the shit they play on the radio. I guess like it changed a lot when people were always downloading music, but when music streaming came a lot bigger, where I'm sure there are people that still listen to the radio, but it's more likely that you will have your specific niche of downloads on any like internet streaming website, or whether you're scrobbling it or not, as opposed to like turning on the radio and having a song repeating. Like I don't think that really exists anymore. If somebody driving and like turning on the radio being like, oh god, it's this fucking song as it plays
Yeah,
on loop, of like the idea that pop music is annoying. It's like, well, it's
yeah,
not rock and it's not metal, it's not rap, like this shit's garbage. I do think there is a
yeah.
nostalgia
Well, that's
to it.
one thing.
Continue what you're
There's a
saying.
nostalgia to it all the time. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, this is a thing that I was reminded of. It's I think in general it's a lot harder these days, specifically not so much if you're a retail worker, to be fair, where I think it's a little harder these days to find a song really really annoying that it kind of makes you mad. And that kind of goes into the fact that most people consume music through personal devices now.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you don't like a song, you just don't listen to it. That being said, I think to myself, there was a point in time back in high school where I was listening to the radio a lot, and you know what I was hearing a lot? I was hearing a lot of "Shape of You" by Ed Sheeran, and everyone hates that.
Yes.
Everyone hates that song. So I think like maybe if I had heard that kind of thing a lot more often, I'd be a little bit more vitriolic about stuff that I hate. But I don't know. I mean, I literally have "Baby" by Justin Bieber in my playlist now, just
Mm-hmm.
because like listening to it now it's just funny. It's
Well,
so
that's
funny. Like you guys probably haven't heard that song. Sorry, what did you want to say?
Well, I just said that's what I was like. Why they brought up Miley? Like, I love Wrecking Ball. Like when it came out, I loved Wrecking Ball, and
I
so
love
many
that
of
song. I
the
like that
bits
song.
in specifically the Bart Baker videos. I mean, there's no reason to clutch our pearls about videos that came out in 2014. But I just like rediscovered these, so it's something. It's more of a cultural zeitgeist I want to talk about, of the idea of Miley Cyrus, like the buzz haired Miley Cyrus is like some kind of disgusting whore or whatever. Like all the jokes are about like, oh, her gross tongue and she's got all these STDs, which is so strange. And there was even like an epic rap battle, if I remember correctly, of that generation of Miley. And I don't even think it lasted that long in the grand scheme of things, but I did like the Miley rebrand. And I was someone who like grew up watching Hannah Montana as a kid. So much of that like over sexualization is also just a thing that happens with non-famous kids. Like if you're forced, some of the strictest, or the kids I knew as a kid that had the strictest parents, became those Miley or Justin Bieber characters when they grew up, because they were finally given a little bit of freedom, and it's like, oh, now I want to like fully express myself. And then it happens with these child stars all the time, and I think we just let them. I honestly, if the music's good, I don't care. And
Yeah,
I
I mean,
like the
I
Miley
think in
song.
I think in general, like, I mean, I don't like. I mean, to be fair, I mean, these people are often very, very well off. Although sometimes, in the case of people like Britney Spears, they're basically abused by the
Yeah.
people that are supposed to take care of them, and they're kind of put on conservatorships. But I think that, like, you know, in general, I just don't like the way people used to talk about, and even now, I mean, the way people talk about celebrities and Miley
Mm-hmm.
Cyrus, the way people talked about her when that song came out. I don't know. I think in general, people just like to kind of lampoon someone who's popular.
It's easy.
Um, yeah,
And when
and I mean,
you're built your YouTube channel on making song parodies, all you have to do is make fun of the person who made the song and like the main thing people joke about. Like all the parodies about Lady Gaga and Kesha, you can imagine
yeah, it's
what the bits were. By the way, I'm just the first song that I found of like the song parody saga was a parody of Kesha's TikTok. Do you want to take a guess at what do you think the parody was titled? Is a parody of TikTok.
something cock,
Yes, it was Chick Cock.
something cock, chick. Oh, okay,
Yeah. And
okay,
the bit, as
oh,
it
okay.
were, the joke in the song parody is that this is a woman with a penis.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And
You want to know
millions of
I
people
ever heard the
applauded.
word the first time I ever learned the word transphobic was
Mm-hmm.
the Your Favorite Martian song Transphobic Techno.
Mm.
Um and
Colon,
yeah,
or sorry,
and
in brackets, bitch got a
it's funny.
penis. That's the full title,
Yeah,
I
well, I
believe.
wasn't gonna say that.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is. It is. It's and it's funny. They kind of retconned it as I forget what the guy who sings that song. I mean, it's just a pitch
DJ.
down Ray William Johnson. I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
DJ. Okay, so I'm pretty sure like they kind of retconned it as DJ having like trauma from having like a homophobic father or something. Uh, which I mean, it's better than
It's not
nothing,
a
I guess.
sort of.
Wait, sorry,
I've
what'd you
seen
say?
this context. I don't know if you've heard the new DJ spelled out. I don't know if you've heard the new Kanye track. That he
Oh no, I
released,
don't want to hear that. I don't want to listen to that.
titled Cousins.
Have you heard the new Kanye?
I
I don't want
have.
to hear Cousins.
I've heard
Oh,
I've heard
okay.
the bit from it, the chorus rather, and it is a story Kanye or Ye is recounting of having a sexual encounter with his cousin when they were children.
Hmm.
And so much of the people who were like defending it, or rather discussing it, have said like, man, he's coming out with this story of abuse that he's a victim. And maybe I'm reading into it incorrectly, but at no point in the story or in the song rather does it sound like there was any abuse going on, rather that it was just an experimental, although it is strange, albeit strange. But I do think there is something. Maybe I'm overly defensive about this because it happened with a lot of the P Diddy jokes as well, where people hear a homosexual encounter like that and they're like, "Oh, he was abused." Cousins by Kanye as real life SCP entry. I'm reading the Twitch chat, but yeah, I have no allegiance to
Yeah.
Kanye. Even before he lost his marbles, I was never a fan of him. I know he makes good music. I just didn't like him. But that's just what I want to say. Is I heard so many people or so much feedback from that. It's like, man, he's coming out about this abuse that happened, and I think it's just a little icky that they're framing that happening. Although it is weird as like innately abuse. Like no way this man would have this homosexual encounter as a child unless it was abuse. And maybe it was abuse. I just don't like that that's the main thing they immediately go to. And,
Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard the song, so I don't know specifically what lines they're referring to. I just know like the
mhm.
synopsis of the song, which is about like having that encounter with his
Yeah.
cousin.
The chorus of the
Um
song
I
Cousins is the line I gave my cousin head.
Okay, so okay. I will say though, and this isn't necessarily maybe abuse isn't the right word. I would definitely say that. I
Mhm.
would probably say though that and this is always this is what people come for my commentary on this. I will
Right.
say because I think one of the things he says as well is that he was like addicted to porn since he was a young child. So
Yes.
I think I could see I could see a point being made about let's not pretend that this guy is a crazy like bigot like insane person. Sorry, it's
Mhm.
it's there's a lot of baggage that comes with even talking about Kanye in the first place. But putting all of this stuff aside, I think there's definitely a conversation to be had about people doing things to each other they don't understand because they see it in
Yeah.
content they probably shouldn't be watching.
Yes.
And that's and I think there's merit to having discussions about that.
Mhm.
I think, frankly, as much as I hate as sad as it is to say, it's not always a fun topic. I think a lot of people, especially our age, and not actually anyone younger than us too,
Yes.
probably has a similar experience. Not necessarily
Especially
with doing
now.
anything like in action, but
Yes.
most people are exposed to online explicit material a
Mhm.
lot younger than they should be. So I mean, talking about that, I think is a reasonable thing to do. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess abuse is probably not the best word for it, though.
It is a traumatic event. I think that porn addiction is a real thing. But when people are talking about it like it's any other addiction, they're like, "Man, I'm trying to overcome, I'm really fighting through it." Like I don't think it's necessarily I'll say outright that I don't think it's as difficult to crack as other addictions. Although it is the same feedback of just like firing off your synapses and releasing dopamine. But the only story I heard in relevance to this is the time that Kanye had porn playing on giant TVs the entire time he was working with Daft Punk. And one of them had a seizure, I
Yeah,
think, with how much porn they were playing in the studio. I could be misquoting that.
yeah. There was like there's like some shit about that. I heard
Mhm.
Nicki Minaj once said while they were working on Monster, the song on MD, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy,
Mhm.
that he was like saying, "You're a really good artist, Nicki," and like he was just looking at like naked women on his computer while he said that. So at least based on these anecdotes, he has definitely a weird relationship with pornography.
Mhm.
Also the fact that he's been spamming it online for the past couple
Yes.
months.
But that's even if he wasn't obsessed with it, just kind of mark of someone who's slowly spiraling, or rather very quickly spiraling. I think that's a lot. We don't really have proper studies, I guess, about how fame and how a level of stardom legitimately affects you. Like, I don't think there's very few popular like normal celebrities. There are a decent amount that like aren't super huge stardom. But I was thinking about this, or I was seeing this because, and it's movies we're going to talk about soon, that I've been rewatching the Mission Impossible movies leading up to the new one, and how much
Okay.
respect and admiration I have for Tom Cruise when it comes to motion pictures and like helping to save cinemas in 2021. Like, he gets it. There are only a stark handful of filmmakers that like truly get it, and I think Tom Cruise is one of them, and he's huge. Like, when it comes to movies, he's like the president. Like, you ask the average person, it's like, hey, there's a Tom Cruise movie, and they'll probably go see it just because they know him. It's just weird. There's just other weird stuff about him that is very strange that I still have admiration for him from a creative standpoint. But there's all that cult stuff as well.
Scientology is weird.
Yeah. What I wanted to say as well on the topic is that I tweeted this the other day because we are not a drama podcast, but we're getting to a point where people have talked about JoJo Siwa on Big Brother, where she came out as, or they're no longer a lesbian, and they're like, oh, I'm queer now, because they were making out with some dude and then cheated on their significant other who had no contact with them on the show. And for a long period of time, I think like the biggest complaint about JoJo is rather that they were just annoying or that they were friends with problematic people. And what I tweeted was, there is nothing that I can hear like JoJo Siwa did to a point that makes me feel anything other than pity. Like, any crazy story where they're like, oh, JoJo said this, JoJo did this. I just know that they were on like Toddlers and Tiaras as a kid, and were forced, even before they were a celebrity, to constantly like hairspray their hair and apply makeup. They were a pageant kid before they were a celebrity, and then they became a child celebrity who had a YouTube channel, had to constantly pretend to be a child. That's another example, an example that flopped, but an example nevertheless of a child star who's so intrinsic to that like ponytail, bright colors, childish look that tries to become more provocative and androgynous as they are allowed to make their own decisions. But there's nothing that JoJo could do, like sans anything super serious, that makes me feel any strong way other than be like, well, I'm sad for them. Like, that's, they never stood a chance.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same thing with Justin Bieber earlier.
Yeah. Oh, also, I actually haven't been paying attention. There seems to be a lot of things about Justin Bieber these past few months, especially because I think a lot of the P. Diddy trial and arrest and all the discussion regarding that, a lot of people are pointing fingers at potential things that Justin may have had to do. I don't want to like
Right.
I am not alleging anything. I cannot be sued for libel. I'm just saying things that people have theorized in these past few months.
It's in the air. Yeah.
It's in the air. Little birdies are saying things. I think in general, we could all just do a little bit less. We could all benefit from caring about celebrities a little bit less and having a lot of emotional stake into celebrities, people we don't know personally, a little bit less.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a good guiding principle, I think.
There are people I admire for their work, but I don't mythologize. Like, I think one of my favorite writers who I just like listening to their live show and all the writing they've done is Dan Harmon, because I find him relatable to a point, and I find it really interesting the takes he has on things, because his special interest was sitcom television, and then contextualize that in making his own work, his own shows. But there's at no point where I'm like, I'm going to vehemently defend this guy, because the thing I don't want to say like about him, but the thing I find relatable about him is when he fucks up, is when he does really irresponsible things. Like, that's the main thing with Dan Harmon, is that everyone says he's made fantastic shows, but also on occasion he's hard to work with, so much so that he's been fired from his most popular show. But I still admire his work. But
no, honestly, I mean, admittedly, I don't know as much of the tea, but like I've heard, bits and pieces about Dan Harmon in general.
Yeah.
I guess I would say, he seems to be good at his job.
Yes.
I mean, I've heard bits and pieces of him talking about his own work. He seems to have a thoughtful process on how he creates, and he's talked about it pretty publicly. So I think anyone who considers himself a creative would benefit from just kind of hearing what he has to say, hearing him talk about his own process.
Yeah.
And I love community, so I mean,
I think you
if
get
anyone's
to
gonna,
a point, there's really nothing to gain from calling someone you like or admire like unproblematic. Obviously, everyone wants someone they aspire to be like to be unproblematic, but I see that so often when like YouTubers get outed for something that people post like, "Oh, not my unproblematic kings," and they just post other YouTubers. Like you're setting yourself up for failure. I don't think there is such thing as an unproblematic
Mhm.
human experience.
No, exactly.
I saw one the other day about people posting. It's like, oh, well, these three never did anything, and one of them was like PewDiePie. It's like, dude, how soon we forget. What do you mean it didn't do any? Had no controversies. That can't be right at all. But circling back to what I was saying about Bart Baker and watching these song parodies, not only were these song parodies like hateful and not funny hateful, but they also sounded like garbage. I legitimately didn't remember them sounding that bad and like over auto-tune. I guess when I was a kid when I found them funny, I just like, oh, this is good music. But listening back to like, I don't think he can really sing. And there was an era of song parodies on YouTube where autotune was becoming a big thing, or more accessible rather. And I don't even think autotune is cheating like most. Only when it's like super noticeable and isn't a deliberate choice do I think it's an issue. Like people give T-Pain a lot of shit, but that's very clearly like an artistic choice. He can sing. We know this about him. But there's so many there were YouTubers who would like do their song parodies, and it's so over auto-tuned. And there was that era of YouTube song parodies, but instead of like me watching these parodies of them shitting on the artist, it eventually pivoted to people making like, or rather me watching like Pokemon or Zelda song parodies of popular songs.
Oh
See,
yeah, no, the Minecraft song parody that became its own culture. Yeah, it's funny. I was just reminded, dude, when we were talking because we were kind of looking at her channel, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Even iJustine was making song parodies.
yeah.
Just like everyone was doing it.
There's a period of time where
Like
every YouTuber like I have to go on iTunes and release a song.
I have to I have to put like my Kesha TikTok parody on iTunes or I won't be a real YouTuber.
And then people who were just making
like
sketch comedy, like your Nigahigas or your Smosh, like I think some of their most popular videos are songs they made, not even parodies, just like original songs they made.
Nice guys, finish last.
That's while I'll treat you like trash. All right, well, we've gone on a long enough tangent about the preamble stuff, but now we're gonna get into the meat of why we're here. Okay, Switchy, walk me through your experience. How did hunting down the Nintendo Switch 2 go for you? Because we now live in a post-pre-order launch time. That is the main difference from last week. And we haven't talked about this yet. I want to know how you came out.
Ooh, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't have a fucking pre-order.
Oh,
I didn't get a pre-order.
Okay.
I got on GameStop.com. First of all, I had to turn off my VPN because GameStop doesn't let me use my VPN with it, which I hate. Put myself on the list, tried clicking, waited, didn't get it.
Right.
Just loaded forever. And honestly, I'll admit I wasn't that persistent about it. Like I was like, okay, dude, I'm not.
What was it? Did you wait for it to roll over
like,
to midnight, or did you just like when I get up, I'll try and pre-order?
I forgot. I'll be honest with you. So I mean, I think it's a big reason too. I went to bed and it was like midnight, and it just didn't occur to me that they were doing it at that point. So the next morning, I was like, shit. So I kind of went on, kind of waited, saw that click, refreshed a little bit, didn't get it.
Yeah.
So that's my fault. Admittedly, that's my fault. But after that, I was just like, well, I'll just hope for the best.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this before. Once it's taken out of your hands, it's kind of liberating in a way where it's like, well, now I don't have to make the decision. So for me, it was.
I mean, I'm on the mailing list, so
that's true. It was the 24th, right? That's when the pre-order was April 24th.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
at 12 a.m.
When we filmed the podcast, I believe that was the 22nd last week. I had just gotten back from the zoo because I was filming a video that I wanted to upload on April 23rd on the 20th anniversary of me at the zoo, where I recreated that video almost exactly. I had it verbatim. I had the lines and the pauses and the turns.
Really, really long trunks.
It was really, really long trunks, and that's cool. There's somewhere he repeats himself, like he stutters a little bit, and you got to get those in there. But I had that idea like a month back, and I'm like, I need to do this. Like, if I don't do this now, it's not going to be the 20th anniversary anymore. And I thought it was really fun. The
You
video
gotta.
is unlisted on the main channel, but now it's on the bonus channel that was uploaded at the same time. But because the actual upload time of the video, if my plugin on Chrome is to be trusted, was like 11:30 p.m. on the 23rd, I was already staying up anyway, and I was watching things, I suppose. So I was waiting for it to become midnight, and I had tabs open for Walmart, Target, Best Buy. I think GameStop didn't start doing pre-orders until the morning. It was like 8 a.m. and I was like, I'd much rather stay up till midnight and then like wake up at 8 a.m. to try it.
Yeah.
And the Best Buy is the one I went to when I had to fix my computer, or what happened was my computer stopped working 2 years ago, so then I brought it to the Best Buy, which was like 20 minutes away, so I had to wrap my computer in a towel and have it in the trunk while I was on the highway, both ways, and I brought it there, and they're like, oh, we're gonna replace the piece that isn't working, and then like a month
Really?
passed, and they're like, yeah, we don't have the piece just at all, probably more than a month, I think. We don't have the piece at all, but you could just replace it with the same model. And then I went back again a little bit later, and they're like, yeah, we don't have that model of PC. I guess it works like iPhones, where if they make a new one, they just don't carry the previous one anymore. So instead, they gave me like
Mm.
Best Buy credits to get a computer of the same price, but they like doubled it. So the PC I bought was like 1,000 something, and they gave me like 2,400 of Best Buy credit. That's a completely different story.
Oh,
And
that's
then
lit.
when I was waiting for the PC to arrive, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go take a shower, because it said like, oh, we'll text you when we're nearby. And I was in the shower, and then I got the text like, hey, it's nearby you, because I needed to sign for it because it's a big and expensive package. So I got the notification that said like, oh, they're coming
Yeah.
by. I'm like, okay, I'll get out and then go downstairs. But what it meant by, oh, they're on their way, is that they're at the door, and then they left. So then the next day, I was told, it was like a Sunday or something, because I normally go to the theaters on weekends. I was told that like, oh, they're not going to deliver it today because it's a Sunday. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to the movie. And then during the trailers for the movie, I got a notification on my phone that's like, we missed you again today. We'll get you next time. And I'm like, well, you told me. And then the next day, I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I set up a chair in front of the front door and just sat there until it showed up. And I was like, I'm not moving from this chair no matter what.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, I didn't want to go to the Best Buy, although I was like, I got to try all the pre-orders because it's not super close. The Walmart is closer. It's like 5 minutes from here. And the Target
Mhm.
line, it just had a screen that said like, oh, you're on the wait list, you're on the list. And Walmart, I guess I never really used it or had a Walmart account. So I kept trying to put in my address and my name, and it kept telling me there was an error. So GameStop was a wash, and I just
Yeah.
kept refreshing those 3 pages. And I eventually got the Walmart pre-order. But my goal for June 5th was to, on the midnight release on June 4th, is to physically go there, because I haven't been to the midnight release of a console ever. I went to the midnight release of Scarlet and
Uh-huh.
Violet, and it was really fun. There were people in line. The GameStop was really chill. I do want to walk to that GameStop because it's not super far, maybe after the stream, just to go ask them about what the deal is over there. But I didn't want to do a second pre-order. I guess I could always cancel the other one. But my Walmart pre-order is a delivery on June 5th. And that is like the soonest I could
You
get
get
it.
it at like 7 p.m. or some
Yeah,
shit.
I guess like they didn't have any in store left. I don't really know how it worked. Maybe it's because I pre-ordered online, because I've seen clips of people being like, man, the line for this pre-order is crazy, and they're like physically at the GameStop or Walmart. I believe that you could just like pre-order online and
Yeah.
then go there physically, which I think is true. But the Switch I'm getting will be,
I think you're supposed to be able to.
yeah, will be a package delivered. I got the bundle, by the way. I got the Mario Kart bundle, which is, thank God. I didn't want to have to get, the $80 Mario Kart. Anyone who doesn't get the bundle, I think it's just a victim of circumstance, because they probably just couldn't pre-order the bundle, and if they want to get a Switch, they have to get the other Switch. And there's really only one game to play.
I think I like saw the button for like pre-order on
Mhm.
the non-bundle version, and I'm like, I'm not clicking that shit, dude. I want the bundle. I got
Yeah.
greedy. I got
Which
greedy.
is honestly fair.
And to be honest, like, yeah, no, I'm not. I like not morally, but I just could not
You have an objection.
not buy the fucking bundle. I don't want to
Yeah.
spend $80. Like, I object to the idea of, no matter, even if it does get me the Switch earlier, I don't want to buy the main Switch and then spend $80 on Mario Kart World. Like
Yeah.
that'll just drive me nuts.
Twitch chat says Walmart delivery one for me says morning of June 5th. Mine says arrives by release date Thursday, June 5th. So that is the latest it could show up. I don't know when on June 5th. I imagine I'm just going to stream all day that day, and maybe a lot of the stream will just be me sitting in a chair like waiting for it to show up. Because I wanted to... I guess I underestimated how bad pre-order... By the way, people... And I'm not saying this to defend Nintendo, because obviously we just talked about how dumb the $80 Mario Kart is, but talked about how this is going to be an abject failure. And maybe it is a lot of scalpers, but the pre-order sold out almost instantly. I think this is going to be a very big release.
I don't.
I guess it's been...
I mean, I think it's definitely going to have people, like, looking... It's definitely going to sell well. I could not see the Switch 2 not selling well. Or I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I guess I haven't thought about it that much, but... there's a lot of hype, and I think Nintendo's a lot bigger right now than a lot of people kind of realize. I mean, I don't see how it's gonna flop, but maybe it will. I don't know.
I
mean,
could argue that it sells less than the Switch 1, but that's because, how can you sell as much as the Switch
it probably will sell less than the Switch 1.
It definitely will.
But I don't know. I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, I'd put money on it selling less altogether. But I don't know. I guess what I was trying to say is I think it's still gonna sell pretty well. I don't think it's as like just dumb of an idea in the sense of, or just not, I don't want to say dumb because some people really like the Wii U. I don't think it's as kind of, struggling to find an audience as the Wii U was. I think there's a lot of people who clearly have a reason to buy a Switch 2. I mean, the fact that it's a mobile device is really nice. There's a lot of cool exclusives already. I mean, Mario Kart, I mean, I don't know about Donkey Kong. Looks like a fun game. I don't know how excited your average Joe is for Donkey Kong. It's not like Smash Bros in the way that it's like appealing to like everybody. But I think I don't know. I just think about how big so many of these properties are these days specifically, that I think at least I don't think Nintendo could sell a console as poorly as the Wii U did in the next couple, like for a long time, just because of how on top of everything they are. One of those is some shit like that.
But that's the case with a lot of Nintendo series, and that's why they coined the term, well, they didn't, but like people coined the term the Switch effect, is that the best-selling Metroid is on the Switch, the best-selling Kirby is on the Switch, one of the best-selling Pokemon games. It's because best-selling Pikmin for sure. Because most people had an install base of the Switch, and definitely Animal Crossing as well. But that was a victim of happenstance as well.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess that's the major change. And even before pandemic times, the Switch 1 had a huge shortage. I guess I had this idealized like mid 2010s, 2000s idea of like, oh man, getting the Wii in Times Square. But also there was a Wii shortage. Like you've seen, or I have rather, these old videos of people lining up for midnight releases. And I had this idealized idea of like going into the store and getting the physical console and then finding all the games and amiibo and whatever add-ons they had and just getting everything for it. And I wanted to do that for the Switch too. But not only did you have to like individually pre-order most things, like maybe all of the accessories will still be there when I go there, but it's going to be delivered to me now. And the only games I'm interested, like I would rather just get the console and then load up the eShop and see what they have. Because that was I didn't get the Switch at launch, but I envied how fun that was to have really no major hitters. Like it was just Breath of the Wild, and it may have just been Breath of the Wild, actually. I can't remember the rest. At least, like, when the console first launched.
1-2 Switch!
Yeah, so more people were playing that, or your Snipper Clips, or Bomberman R, that, like, they otherwise wouldn't have played because, like, oh, we want to play things that are on this console. Granted, the Switch 2 is backwards compatible, so there's still a lot you can play. Yeah. But I've seen people talk about the Switch 2 launch like it's lackluster. They're like, man, they only have Mario Kart World. But... the Switch launched with just Breath of the Wild and a tech demo game that you had to pay for, which is what the Switch 2 is launching with. And the N64 launched with Mario 64 and Pilot Wings.
Weird.
Like, that's all it had. Odyssey came out later in the year.
Yeah.
I'm talking about day one launch.
Odyssey came out later. I mean,
because if that's the case, we have to consider Donkey Kong
as
a launch
title.
The Wii?
Like Zelda Crossbow Training?
That had to have been way later.
What were the Wii's launch titles? Like that Zelda Crossbow Training
Well, I know
game?
Breath of the Wild came out across the Wii U and the Switch
Nintendo
the same
Wii
day. Did Twilight Princess have different release dates?
Yeah, it did.
What did it come out on first?
I think it did. Let me double check.
Okay.
I think because GameCube.
Okay.
I assume at least.
Oh,
Odyssey. Oh, I think I already said that. Odyssey came out like later that year.
yeah. And that's why I
Let
got
me
the
see.
console
Or
around
might
Christmas
oh
as
no, I
one
think
for Christmas. Go ahead.
I'm just saying. Actually, Twilight Princess might have been released for both consoles.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time. I'm not 100% sure.
I'd always heard that like it came out on the Wii a
So I'm
little bit
looking.
sooner. I could be wrong though. But yeah, so that's my launch is
Oh
that it
wait, let
will
me see.
be delivered to my house on the 5th, on June 5th. I'll do the unboxing. I'll load up the console, set up online and whatnot. I'll go to the eShop and just get whatever they have. I'll get myself gift cards or something, so I won't have to use my card. And I will just get whatever there is for the Switch because honestly, on the Switch One, most of the games I downloaded. We talked about this before. I do predominantly prefer physical gaming, but not when it comes to the handheld console. I'd much rather have games downloaded on the Switch. Although the games I have downloaded are all like in a reserve and an archive that I need to constantly delete and re-download. I know the Switch 2 has more space, but I imagine that's because the Switch 2 games are going to take up more space. I actually think there was a guide posted, yeah, here it is, of the amount of space that these games take up. But even if I'm just playing like Switch 1 games on it. So like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the updated version is 13 gigabytes. Super Mario Party Jamboree upgraded is 13. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is 19.9. Zelda Breath of the Wild is 24.2. Donkey Kong Bonanza is supposedly 10 gigabytes. Bravely Default 11. Mario Kart World is 23.4. That's very big for a Nintendo game. I think the biggest they've had so far. And then you have your Yakuza, which is 53.7, and your Cyberpunk, which is 59.8. Editor, I'll send the tweet to you. Have it appear on screen right now. So I don't know enough about. Are those exuberant sizes? Well, I guess Mario Kart World being 23. They said that it's going to launch with 256 gigabytes, right? Because that was on our bingo card.
Yeah.
So I think I could fill it up with whatever they have on the eShop that day. And
I would want a
maybe,
card as soon as possible. A
yeah.
storage SD card.
I tried it. That's
And
another
it
thing that
sucks
like
that
sold out really quickly is there's one terabyte card that is compatible with the Switch. But every time I go to click on it, they're like, oh, we're out of stock. I would really like that. Well, okay, so it doesn't launch. It launches with 265 on hardware, but the SD card slot is empty. So I'll just get another 265 card in theory, or
Yeah,
254.
but I would want way more than that, frankly. Because I can't even download games on my Switch anymore because it's just full to capacity.
Yeah, I'm just constantly deleting and re-downloading or like archiving
Yeah, I just
so I
find
can
that
get back to
annoying.
them.
But I guess if it's possible, I prefer to get physical games just because it's a little bit easier in some ways. I mean,
Yes.
it's nice to load up games. I think as a guy who's generally pretty anti-tchotchke, like I'm usually okay with collecting physical game kind of like cases and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
It's more about carrying
yeah,
around the game carts that I don't want to
yeah, that
do.
part's annoying.
June 5th
Because I
Blizzard.
have to like pick between games to like take in my case and stuff, which is kind of annoying. But I don't know. For me, it's doable.
So what we're learning here is that I have my pre-order delivered and you did not receive a pre-order.
Yeah, bro.
Right. So, I mean, fingers crossed that you'll be able to get something. I mean, maybe they'll just open up. I don't know. But what are you going to do? Worst comes to worst.
I might have to wait a little bit to be honest with you. I might also like what's the word? Nip off my friends if they have like a game. I might be like, hey, can I borrow your Switch 2 or something?
Or
I might. What'd you say?
I just said or I don't know if you still plan on going to MomoCon or not. I don't think I am. Just because that's like a little bit before then.
It's a little too late to lock in for that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What it isn't, perhaps, if you want, because I'm going to be streaming the Switch thing all weekend. If you want to then come here to where I am instead and play the Switch 2 here.
I'm not actually totally against that.
Yeah.
All things considered, that might be fun to do.
All right, well, let me know because that might be worth doing on stream. Although I do want to test their weird online stuff, but I think throwing a party for the Switch 2 would be really fun and like streaming all day.
Yeah. No, I mean that's actually something that I'm pretty open to. So I'll let you know about that like pretty soon. I mean, I can figure out whether I can do it or not. Like, not
all right, perfect.
Too long.
Well, then, other than the major milestone in our Nintendo Switch 2 stories, we haven't really gained any additional or any like any information on the games we know to be releasing. We obviously had incredibly insane posts about Donkey Kong Bonanza. And originally, the crux of the first Super Tuesday episode was discussing the Mario Kart World Direct, but after watching it, we realized that it didn't really tell us anything, and that discussion devolved into just the internet at large. So we don't have a whole lot to discuss when it comes to like theorizing, because again, we're just gonna have our hands on it pretty soon. Obviously, we just talked about Deltarune, that we were just talking last time about, and this time as well, internet sort of ecospheres that have like not devolved but created on their own when you leave something alone for so long. This seems like the really only time I could talk about it. I'm gonna take a drink actually.
Okay. I'll stall.
Like a puppet.
I mean,
I'm like holding a puppet up
there's-
while taking a drink. What were you gonna say?
Well, there's something fun, I think, about talking about the world at large with Nintendo fans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's
It's like
when the big tariff announcement happened. So many like Nintendo tubers that have only ever talked about Nintendo are like, "Well, we just got a message from the president." It's like, this sounds so weird coming out of your mouth. Like, I never thought
yeah.
of everyone's taking a
Yeah,
stance.
especially because we made the joke is that like they kind of woke up the gamers with that.
They're gonna
But I
radicalize
think
a
someone
generation.
decoded Bonanza's language yesterday.
I did see another like map that the background kind of looked like the northern Chromosphere. There is a lot of speculation and a lot of theorizing when it happens to Donkey Kong Bonanza, but I just got to splurge about this for a second because, again, there's no other opportunity for me to talk about it. I think is now the only time I could talk about Blake Andrews on Twitter.com and horse race tests. I ran this overview a little bit before. If you don't know, game developer Blake Andrews has been posting these. I don't know if they're procedurally generated, but they're these horse races with different colored, malshapen horses with different colors and ridiculous names. And they race by bumping around surfaces like that DVD logo that would stay on the screen on DVD players when it was idle. And I have only gotten super invested as of late when my wife started having me watch them every day. There was like a different race every day starting April 1st and ended a couple days ago. And that's why I'm bringing it up now. Really, that's like the crux of my understanding. Because there's a story unraveling in it, maybe. But again, also maybe it's random. Like each race is on a track completely randomly generated. I don't know all the details, and neither does anyone else, evidently. But it seems like a really interesting experiment to just have an account to post things like that every day. And I imagine we'll get some horror guy to make like a video about how it's secretly an ARG or spooky.
I'm waiting
or
for the ARG horror video
or Lost Media or something. But it just ended, and if you're listening to this now, a Nintendo fan somehow, and you haven't seen it, I recommend checking it out. Editor, have one of them play on screen as I'm talking about this. At the very least, as a little like semi-viral internet micro atmosphere. It's sort of the best thing I can compare it to is Twitch Plays Pokemon, the first phenomenon back in 2014, where the game itself is so simple, but then talented people who watch it started making fan art and ships and lore. And it's really one of those like blink and you miss it
kind of.
Yeah, internet moments. Yeah. And I'm glad I got to get in at the very last week at the very least and see all the fan art of the different horses. If you've seen like horse fan art as of late, it's been because of that. I don't know if you've like happened across it and you're like, I don't know what this is related to. It's the horse test, because that's how I experienced it or saw it for the first time, is just seeing fan art. That's not even what I wanted to bring up in relation to Nintendo. I just thought I had to say that at some point. What I did want to mention, well, do you have any stats about horse race? You haven't seen it at all, right?
No, I haven't. I'm kind of out of the loop on this one. Let me see.
There's so many little moments that I just missed at large, and I'm glad I like got in at the very end that I could understand these esoteric references. All right, editor, stop showing it on screen. What I did want to mention is that there has been speculation when it comes to Donkey Kong Bonanza, if you can believe it. I know, more crazed speculation about who is composing the music for it, because David Wise, who made songs for every Donkey Kong Country game, including Returns and Tropical Freeze. Like, they brought him back for that. Okay. David Wise said that he was not working on the game, which led some to believe that because this new game seems very, like, 90s Rareware inspired, and we know he worked on music for brand-adjacent games like Mario plus Rabbids, that it could maybe, just maybe, be Grant Kirkhope.
Grant Kirkhope? Yeah, I heard people say that.
But then they asked him
to be Grant Kirkhope,
on Blue Sky if the new music found in the trailers was him, and he responded that it wasn't. So either the
Mm.
composer is like someone new for the game, or is a more seasoned Nintendo composer. I've seen people on Reddit say like, "Oh, it could be Koji Kondo." I don't know about that. Or Grant Kirkhope is lying again for fun, which he's done in the past. He lied about Banjo. Before E3 2019, he told Banjo fans to not hold their breath.
That's so funny. I've always wondered like what they're allowed to lie about, because in the sense that, you know, with NDAs, I've never known for sure, like, let's say if because I assume Grant Kirkhope, you know, had was signed an NDA regarding Banjo's release.
Yeah. Well, I think he
Um
made music for Smash Bros. I'm pretty sure.
yeah. Or at the very least, he seemed to be in the in. I'm sure he was in the conversation. I think he did work on. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty sure he did work on music in Smash.
Hmm.
But in that position, I obviously he can't say, "Hey guys, I'm working on Smash" before he's allowed to say that. But I'm curious if there's anything specific that he should say when he's asked. I guess the answer is just lie or avoid the topic as much as possible.
Just not respond to
Um,
it if it's on Blue
yeah.
Sky. But do you have any standing or preference when it comes to this? I know you're a lot more musically inclined than I am. Do you have a favorite Donkey Kong composer by any chance? Are you
Nah,
Team
not
David
really.
Wise or Team Grant Kirkhope?
I mean, to be honest, and this could just be because I like Donkey Kong Country. I've never liked it as much as I wish I did. And there's, you know, they're great games. It's not. I mean, I've played all of them except for three, Donkey Kong Country 3.
Hmm.
I guess it's the I think I'm just not the biggest 2D platformer, guys. That's the biggest reason that I'm not, you know, just in love with the games. So I guess because of that, there's a part of me that secretly is wishing it was Grant Kirkhope, or it is Grant Kirkhope,
Hmm.
just because I love Banjo-Kazooie so much. But, you know, I think I mean, I'm sure the people they hire are going to be like, whoever they hire is going to be great. I mean, frankly, these kinds of games, they've always been pretty good at having like good music. So,
Hmm.
I mean, could be anyone who does it.
And even if it's like the exact same team from Odyssey, which we're already assuming it is, like it might just be the composer from that. And Odyssey has a lot of fantastic songs. Some are a little derivative of Galaxy, but I'm not even talking about Jump Up Superstar. There's a lot of tracks in that game that I really like, and especially if
What's
they got
derivative of
small
Galaxy?
lean. They're the dinosaur level. I forget the not the Wooded Kingdom, but I forget what it's called. The level the gap not the galaxy, sorry, the kingdom where you first capture the T-Rex, it kind of sounds exactly like Gusty Garden Galaxy. Like it uses that same opening motif, and it doesn't really track with what they're going for in that game, or at least in that kingdom.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's not even like
Um,
bad. It's just like, oh, this sounds like Galaxy, which is fine.
yeah.
Galaxy is good.
I think I'd say, well, I mean, off the top of my head, the song that I'm kind of itching to hear right now, it's such good YouTube video music, is the Wooded Kingdom music. The like,
Yeah.
"Da-na-na-na-na-na." Like you hear that so often in YouTube videos because it's just such good YouTube video music.
Hmm. People are going off although the new Donkey Kong is like heavily based on those 90s rare platformers, like we're seeing a lot of that. I also think they just want to do a clean fresh start. And so that's why they didn't bring back David Wise, although he has been composing music for all the mainline Donkey Kong games since Donkey Kong Country. Your Secret
Yeah.
Brush Symphonies, your what's it called?
It's
Bramble.
Sticker Bush.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry.
um.
Yeah, I'm reading off a
No,
Wikipedia article. No, I'm lying.
I love correcting people with that because I totally made that mistake. It's
Yeah.
such an easy mistake to make. Just assume it says brush instead of bush.
Hmm.
All over
That
YouTube,
does
only
make
play.
more sense. But I think it's interesting that they're going in a different direction because we have heard little instances of music. By the way, the Nintendo Today app, I don't nothing has really come up other than announcements about like accessories and whatnot. I saw a post about like the HDMI cord. Like they're truly running out of things to put on there. I think it's one of those whatever gets posted on there that is important will make its way to other sites. Although I
Yeah.
like the idea, there's just never enough information going on. Or at least like actively supported online games that you would need to know. Like maybe when a new Pokemon comes out or a new Splatoon and they're continually adding things like Splatfest or raid dens, then there will be something to check regularly. But before then, when we
Uh-huh.
kind of have no games going on.
Well, actually, I think they still do raid dens, so they're not really even advertising that on Nintendo Today. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they still do raid dens for Scarlet and Violet.
Hmm.
So they just don't really make a big deal out of it. Which,
Hmm.
I mean, to be fair, I kind of get why they wouldn't.
Use the Legend of Zelda movie release date to make us think the site will be awesome. There was like a week where we got so much information. And
No
now,
offense, this is what I was expecting. Not to be that guy, But I may have seen this coming from like Nintendo Today. Like people give a shit about it for like a couple weeks, and then they realize, okay, never mind. Like there's so many little like things they do like that where I think it just runs out of steam so quickly.
Yeah, they have a
Not to
lot
be
of
a dick.
ideas.
Yeah. There was like a notes app on the 3DS that like had like a similar thing. I forget what it's called. It had like a little icon too, and you kind of open it. You're like, oh, maybe I'll
Yeah.
use this. Never mind. I'm not gonna use this.
Overall,
Never mind. I have a game
this
jack
was
to
just an
play.
idea. This was just to give us an excuse to have a podcast. Although I do think it is a smart framing device because we oft have things to talk about when it comes to Nintendo, and it will the Switch too. But the last couple of days we've been, I mean, the only Switch 2 information we talked about were the pre-orders and that music speculation, where it kind of gives us an excuse to just talk about whatever we want at that given time. And I have something I'd like to discuss, or several somethings, sort of tertiary related to video games. Because we do the show as the first stream of my work week every week now, whether it be a Super Tuesday or a Monday episode, I will continually have a lot of art to discuss. It might sound like pretentious. I'm trying not to use the word content here, or just like anymore. I've been slowly working on that. I like being pretentious a little bit. I think the worst pretension is when you're like gatekeeping, like saying like, oh, this is too intelligent for you. I think calling movies pictures and calling video games films and movies, or films and shows, art is fine. I don't like the commodification of content. Even YouTube videos are art, or can be. Anything can be.
I think you can.
Mm-hmm. Because every Friday I do my best to go to the local movie theaters, at least to see one movie a week. I've fallen 5 weeks behind because this latest video I've been working on has taken way longer and way more work hours than I expected. Oh, I guess I should... Okay, this is a good time to mention this. The Back at the Barnyard video. It was actually supposed to go up tomorrow, and I've already announced that I did the teaser for it. But for whatever reason, I believed that like Nelvana would be merciful. I assumed the reason no one really talked about this show in depth on YouTube is because nobody cared, and less because like YouTube would not allow them. And basically I'm trying to make a version of this video that isn't blocked in any territories. What I'm getting right now are like claims and blocked in some territories. And claims are fine. It's not ideal, but you trudge through it, and you can, what's the term? Dispute them. But the blocked in some territories, although it may not be blocked here, is still obnoxious. And while, like, to begin with, or if this is happening, the uncensored version, oh, heavens, will go on Patreon anyway. That happens whenever, like, a video gets claimed, and I add the little red filter over it, and then the fully uncensored one is exclusive to Patreon. So I could have uploaded the video to Patreon tomorrow because that's just fully done. I wanted the YouTube upload and the Patreon upload to go up at the same time. So I'm hoping to get a red version of the Back of the Barnyard video that is allowed to go through the system up before the end of the week. Because I mentioned April a ton in that video. And I gotta say, every video I'm like, oh, this is coming out in April. This is big for April. And I know I'm gonna get comments like, this guy said it's coming out in April, but it's actually May 3rd or whatever. But where I'm at right now, I do not know yet, so stay tuned. Do you have any information, any updates for what you've been working on currently? Because that was the only thing I had. I did have the Me at the Zoo post for the bonus channel and that. But the Back of the Barnyard video, I'm hoping to get out by the end of the week, probably.
Just Pocket Tail Island, it's the only thing, really. It's going to be months, though. It's going to take forever to finish that
And then we
video.
will continually hear about it on the show as you make progress.
Boy. Yeah,
I was rewatching Action, by the way, over the last week or so. And I was showing it to someone who had never seen it, because I showed it to the same person who had never seen Total Drama Island the last time we were together. And
what'd they think?
I don't know. Maybe fine. Maybe they were humoring me. But like as I was watching it from the perspective of like someone else, I'm like, man, Total Drama Action's bad. I think it's bad.
No, I love it. I love it.
I
love it, dude.
I think as soon as Courtney shows up, I'm like, okay, this is a stretch of some of my favorite episodes. But then as soon as Owen comes back, then it loses it again. That stretch of Courtney to Owen.
I've never disliked Owen being a part of Action in that way. I don't know why. It's never been a problem for me. I think Action is, to be fair, it probably is kind of carried by. I think the framing of the episodes is fun. It's like, oh, this is the kung fu episode, or this is the heist episode. Like that's fun for me. It's a little aimless, but I've never not found it entertaining. I think also one thing I just like is that I love what Action does in the way that it kind of expands the world of Total Drama. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm thinking about this a lot because, I'm reviewing a lot of the later seasons now where the setting of the show just feels like a pocket dimension. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like in All Stars and Pocket Tale, it doesn't feel like there's an outside world.
Yeah.
Like just like I mean, like the characters just don't talk about their lives really, and they only talk about it in the context of like before they went on the show. And
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know, I've always loved how in the earlier seasons, especially in action, where the whole season takes place inside of, like, I assume Toronto.
Yes,
And
it
they kind
is.
of go back to the island, or they have the aftermath show. I've always loved that. I think it really came to its conclusion, or really kind of got expanded upon in a pleasant way with World Tour, obviously. That's
Mm-hmm.
literally where they go and explore the outside world. But there's just, I don't know, that, like, I like how much action it shows the kind of production of total drama and the kind of intricacies, the like producer war, them trying to fit Owen. I just like the kind of little bits and pieces like that for some reason.
Yeah, well, that's before like it goes like the big monster in that season is like, oh, this big animatronic, like that's the big thing. Is like we have this big animatronic monster, which something I noticed while watching it is that in the first one they're like, oh, this is the monster, and then the second episode is the alien adventure, the alien challenge, and then every
Hmm.
time they bring up the monster again, they're like, oh, it's this monster alien animatronic. And then in the finale, when they're like asking Duncan and Beth, spoilers for Total Drama Action, when they're asking Duncan and Beth questions about all the challenges, they're like, oh, who got voted off in the alien challenge? They're like, oh, Bridget and Jeff. It's like, oh, for your challenge, you must fight this monster alien. And then it's the monster animatronic again. It's like, well, I don't know what happened, but they're like equating those two episodes together or confusing them, maybe.
I love total drama. They've always been sloppy with stuff like that. Or I mean, I think they got a little better about it, to be
Yeah.
honest, in the later seasons. But they always had like little sloppy things like that where it's like, dude, guys, come on.
Well, a lot of it
Fun.
is you could tell like episodes written by different people, and a lot of that the
Yeah.
Brady shit in that season is a lot of that where it gets brought up and then it's not brought up, and then Beth talks to other dudes, and then it gets
I
brought
wish
up
my
again.
boyfriend was here.
Yeah, I was
I
like, where,
love my
where did
boyfriend.
this come from? But I don't like it. After watching Island, I'm like, okay, I like this one the least of the main ones. But what you were saying, or the original ones rather, of the
Oh
the
yeah, I mean,
concurrent
of the
top
first
three.
three, it's definitely my least
Yeah,
favorite. But
but you said like they don't really talk about the outside, and I think that's probably because, or maybe just an example of
oh,
that,
1 second.
is because they make a note to talk about how they're most of them are 16. Obviously, we know Cody's younger, and he gets his birthday in World Tour, but they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you're all 16 years old, something like that, and then action takes place right after Island, but then some time passes for World Tour, some time passes for Revenge, and then All Star comes back around, so they can't really mention how probably some of, if not most of the cast of Total Drama are like legal adults now.
Yeah. They don't want to, I don't think. I think first of all because they wanted to have the gens date between each other. Like, they didn't want that to be kind of like weirdly ethically dubious, to be honest. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
genuinely one of the reasons. I think also just easier to not have the characters meaningfully age and not really acknowledge it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Cameron says he's 16 in Revenge of the Island. I think he might say it too in All Stars. But I think he's the only character in that cast who brings up his age. And the
Yeah.
less they bring it up, I think the better, because it just gives them more opportunities. And I mean, it's the reason why characters generally don't age in cartoons.
Mm-hmm. I think
I
after Cody's birthday in Drumheller is when it just like stops outright because he was always supposed to
yeah,
be the younger one, but so much of that, or like arguing that like, oh, you want the cartoon characters to live forever, it wasn't like that before because of how often they bring up the amount of days, and the schedule never made sense. Like at the
it
beginning of the
never
first three
did.
seasons, they're like, oh, this will be 48
Every
weeks or
3 days, my ass.
yeah.
They said every 3 days. They would sometimes say yesterday, or I think they would sometimes say yesterday regarding the last episode, or last week regarding the last episode. They also love saying last year regarding the last season. It really just
Yeah,
makes
just
the whole
because it
thing a
aired
mess.
last year.
I guess so. That's why I've always did. I don't want to like shit on people, but I've never taken the total drama timeline sleuthing very seriously. In the
Mm-hmm.
sense of, like, I mean, you can kind of make an argument that Courtney is 19 in All Stars if you want to, and
Yeah.
there's some evidence to go behind that theory based on like how much Sierra's hair grows, and the fact that they say a year passes between Revenge of the Island and All Stars, and the fact that at least like I think Island in Action theoretically would have taken place within like 6 months of each, well, they take place 2 days apart, but altogether that's a few months. But I really think that at least this depends on what you consider canon, how you think things should be considered canon. It's really hard to take that new number very seriously when I don't think anyone who wrote the show thought about it that much. Like, just like not to diss them, I think that's never really been a key thing that's been kept track of very intently in the show, nor should it really be, nor does it have to be. I guess the reason I'm fired up about this is just because it's an interesting conversation that I think, like, I don't think you're really meant to think about.
Yeah, but it always transfixed me when I was a kid because I would always try and like do the math in my head.
It bothered me so much. It bothered me so much. The fact that like World Tour is confirmed to take place in April, or at least coming up to April. I mean, a lot of people say like probably like February or April, which is a decent prediction. I guess, as a kid, I was thinking like, so wait, did World Tour just happen like 2 or 3 months after Action, or was it a year and 2 or 3 months? I think someone who produced the show, I forget who. So I don't want to I'm just like saying if someone said something, it's not worth saying much. I think someone eventually did say years later that they imagined it as taking place, a few months after Action, but I just don't think that really matters that much. I think someone also said that Noah and Owen are supposed to be 19 or 20 in Redonkulous Race. And once again, I mean, fair enough. I just think that the show isn't really putting a lot of effort into considering that and how they write the characters. It's not like Owen's like, oh yeah, I started college. Like, he didn't say that.
Well, that's the other thing too, is once you start bringing up the outside world, it's like, well, then why are they still doing this? And I mean, this is what I talked about in the video years ago where I talked about like how the show ruined all the characters like mentally, or just like they were constantly stuck in the total drama machine, is that like the implication that as soon as they were on the show, they gave up on all their other like hopes and dreams and never did anything else. And like, this is what they do now. And that happens a lot with reboots, like the iCarly reboot. It's like, oh, she's graduated college, she's gonna go back to doing iCarly. It's like, that's sad. When I hear that, it makes me sad.
No, to be fair, I mean, apparently iCarly is just this world sensation. This 14-year-old made like a live stream, and it got like tens of thousands.
Yeah, I don't know if we talked about that on the show or if it was in the preamble.
We might have talked about that like just on your
where they're like, oh yeah, our live
server.
Stream got 1 million viewers, and it was on their website. It's like, I don't even think the like most watched Twitch stream has broken like 500,000. Like, that's insane. 1 million. That's a lot of people. So what I was getting at when I was talking about going to the theaters and why I haven't been and why I'm 5 behind now. Last Friday, the last Friday that happened, I tested myself. Previously, the amount of movies I had watched at the theater over one 24-hour period, the cap, my record was 2. The average moviegoer has done 2 in one day. It happens all the time. The average normie even participated in like Barbenheimer Summer. Did you ever go to see either of those movies?
I never did, actually. I think there's been one time I've seen 2 movie theaters and 2 movies at a theater in one day, and I think I was like 8. I think
What
it was my
were
birthday. So we saw. Dude, I don't remember. Just like some shit. Like
the first time I did it as a kid,
2009.
I saw Mad Max Fury Road and then Inside Out. And by Inside Out, I had such a headache. And then it's straight. Last year, sequel to Inside Out and sequel to Fury Road came out kind of around the same time. So it was a weird kind of homecoming for me. All right. Yeah. So on Friday, I attempted the death-defying stunt of seeing 3 movies at the movie theater in one night. 2 of these movies were major motion picture hits that will be discussed shortly. And one of them was the 20th anniversary re-release of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. And that movie, that I'll talk about now because it's not a movie that came out this year, I wanted to go in with the mind of an adult from 2005. Like, obviously, I loved the movie as a kid, which I'm not even sure was the target demographic for that movie specifically. And then as a teen, I got into, like, reviewers tearing it apart and being an incredibly flawed film. But I wanted to go into it fresh as an adult without the burden of, like, parroting the opinion a YouTuber gave to me. Because that's something I broke off a lot when I was becoming a teenager, or rather when I started making my own content. Is not just regurgitating what I've heard and being like, no, I want to have my own stance even if it's unpopular.
Okay.
After this occurrence, after going to see it with a fresh slate, clean slate, seeing what I feel, I am happy to announce that Star Wars Episode 3 is still very bad. Not as bad as the other two prequels, but still worse than most movies. There's no weight to it, both physically and metaphorically. Because it's all filmed on a blue screen, the characters move with no urgency when their world is collapsing. Like, there's so many occurrences where, like, oh my god, he did this thing, we have to go, hurry, and then they leisurely walk down a hallway because they can't literally see what's in front of them. And the rest of the cast jump around and are tossed around like it's a middle school play and everyone is playing Peter Pan. There's none of that. Do you have any strong feelings about Star Wars films?
Dude, I tried getting into them as a kid. I never like gave a shit about them. Honestly, if I tried to get into them now, I'd probably like them. At least obviously like the original trilogy.
Maybe,
4, 5, and
yeah.
6.
I think they're
But
fun to
honestly,
watch from the perspective of when they came out.
yeah. I mean, I remember liking A New Hope when I first watched it. And then like I watched 5. And I remember to be fair, I was like 9, but I remember just eventually I lost interest. I wasn't really that, like what's the word? Just captivated by it.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would like them now as a grown adult.
Did you have your
Honestly,
big thing as a kid that like all, because like I was into Barney and like shit in diapers or whatever, and then I saw Star Wars and then it became all Star Wars.
Mario. I remember like when I was a toddler, I loved Thomas the Tank Engine. I loved trains. And then, I eventually got, well, I mean, once I got a DS, it was freaking checkmate for literally any
All
other,
bets were off.
Yeah, it's like Mario is the coolest thing ever. And to be fair, Mario probably still is the coolest thing ever. Like,
Yeah, I still really like Mario.
Yeah, everything about Nintendo. I mean, at least until like I was 18, it was unequivocally the most important thing in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just like in terms of like the thing that brings me the most joy. Just for fun, like Nintendo games.
Not to rub it in for others, but it is, and this is not from the business side of things or like the spin-offs, but it is fortunate to have a hyperfixation of a franchise that is overwhelmingly positive, like quality product. Like
Yeah,
I'm
no, for
glad
sure.
we talked about this last time. I'm glad the Sonic the Sonic infection kind of missed me a little bit and missed you as well. That I can't imagine being a Sonic fan and just being like, man, this shit, I'm so mad. Although I am a Star Wars fan, even though I dislike most of it. Like, my love of Star Wars is kind of because it's bad.
What do you think of the original movies? Like
I really
original...
like the original movies. I think Return of the Jedi, or the first act of it, is my favorite, even though it's the worst of the 3, because there's kind of the last act and the first act are really solid. I like them. It's just one of those things that imprints on you. But that's where, like, I try not to be up my own ass about it, but that is an example of something I am obsessed with. I am in the fandom. I became like autistically attached to, that I watched as a kid, but I still understand its flaws and where it lacks quality. Whereas I see so many people who like grew up with something that defend it vehemently. It's like, it's okay. Like, the thing you like can have bad things in it. Most of Star Wars is bad. So I like to think that if I was a Sonic fan, I'd be one of those Sonic fans that's like, this shit sucks. But I love Sonic, despite it all.
Admittedly, and this might be a point of contention. I don't like describing movies or anything or any art in general as like inherently bad or good.
Okay.
Just as a I mean, at least in terms of, as a colloquialism for what I personally like or dislike, I would say I do that. But I guess I kind of find myself believing that there's no such thing, or at least I can't really take the concept of objectively good that seriously.
You're really not going to like this next segment.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, that's fine. I mean, I think it's an interesting point of discussion.
But I agree with you. I don't think there is an objective.
It's funny when I released the All Stars video. It's like, how do I make this about total drama? Well, I think one of the things I was reminded of when I was working on that video is that, All Stars has a lot of problems with inconsistency and kind of frankly sloppy writing, and sometimes that's frustrating, and a lot of people are really hard on it for certain kind of logical inconsistencies and stuff. And that's fair enough. But it occurred to me, and this is someone who, Island is my favorite season of the show, and I'll be totally honest, there's a lot of plot inconsistencies in Island. Yes. Even with the theory, even with like headcanons or theories about, certain characters kind of plotting shit, there's certain things that are just kind of thrown in, don't make much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of things that are just kind of shimmied into existence. And as much as I hate to say it, I don't think that really is a problem for me. And I guess that's a one thing I will say regarding the way people talk about art in general is we consider plot inconsistencies. We say those things are a lot more important to us than they actually are.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. There, as I said, like, except with the exception of, I would say, like, mysteries and, those kinds of I'd say mysteries in general, mystery stories. I've never like played a game and been like, man, I love how there's no plot holes here, or watched a movie.
Yeah.
Unless there's like something really overt that just is like stupid. But even I think I honestly have a high tolerance for stupid things. And because of that, the most I can really ascribe to what I like about a game or a movie or a TV show or whatever is what it makes me feel. And because of that, I don't think it's even I would say it's a worthwhile conversation in that it's kind of fun to think about, but I couldn't ever really say, oh, I like this more than that, but that is objectively better than this. It's not really a way I consider, art in a meaningful way. I guess that's not a proper sentence, but I guess I would say that, so much. I mean, there are what I would call generally agreed upon principles of good writing, good ways of, explaining, I guess, organizing stories, bringing in plot points and kind of resolving them. But I would also say that a lot of my favorite, movies and games intentionally break those rules.
Yeah.
So I think that's a key reason that, when you really try and quantify quality or value in art, you kind of find yourself in these weird kind of paradoxes of, oh, this is supposed to be bad, but something about it's really cool to me. I don't know. That's why I don't know. That's why I kind of avoid using that terminology, at least in a sense of trying to really consider it objective or even consider that possible.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there is an objective truth when it comes to film. And also, like, the best film is not the film with the least issues or flaws. And I think people talk about this a lot when it comes to when the most popular person online talking about movies was like CinemaSins, where like any little thing that's off. I love absurdism. I think my favorite comedies, or even not comedies, are just ones that lean on absurdism, where something happens that's important to the plot that may or may not make sense, but I think it is funny. But I think it needs to be consistent with the plot. My issues with pieces of art are never like, this thing has got a lot of plot holes. And I wanted to say that in context of Star Wars as well, because I am saying this, I love all of the movies. I think some of them are bad. There are people who love the prequels and they're like, these are fantastic films because obviously they came out when they were 6. And then the new Disney ones, they're mad either because they're woke or because they're different or whatever. A lot of the arguments I've seen for the sequels are like, oh, why is this bomber dropping bombs in space? Like, how can it drop things like that when it's in space? Why are these characters who are supposed to be attacking them waiting for their turn to attack? It's like, well, it's because it's a movie. Like, that doesn't take me out of it. That doesn't bother me. And
why do stormtroopers always miss? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess that, like, those kinds of criticisms, I mean, they can be meaningful. They can be fun to talk about. I think they're often used as sort of a front for the actual things you dislike about a movie you're watching.
I think people who say that, like, they kind of have nothing to say. But I agree with what you just said, that the average person, like, whenever someone likes a movie I dislike, I try really hard not to come across as like a debate bro, where I'm like, oh, well, tell me why you like this movie. I'm not trying to be like combative. I just genuinely want to know because I find it really interesting. I think every person, even if they don't like discuss film professionally, has the right idea. They just don't know how to verbalize it. So when someone's like, I found this bit annoying, I didn't like it, I'm like, okay, well, this is like egregious. Okay, so this is what, like, they have, talking about films and discussing any piece of art is not difficult. I can use as much big words as I want, but at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, this is bad because it's boring and stupid, which is true.
Yeah.
But again, there's no objective.
Oh, no,
there are people online who's like, this is an objectively bad movie or an objectively bad song, an objectively bad game. There is no such thing. It's all subjective.
I'm curious though, and this isn't to challenge you. When you say, for example, that you love the Star Wars prequels, but they're bad, like, what do you think you mean by that? In the sense of what does it mean to you when you say that?
It's not like, sometimes you like something despite its flaws. What I like about those movies, aside from the production design, which I think is genuinely really good. Like George Lucas, although I don't think he's a good director, I think he has the sauce when it comes to designing characters. And that
Okay.
It's the Sonic the Hedgehog effect, where regardless of how you feel about Sonic's characterization, those character designs are just so good. Sometimes Sonic just makes such a character design that's so hard that you just look past everything and you're like, man, Silver the Hedgehog's cool because it looks cool. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of that in the Star Wars prequels. But I would say a lot of what I love about the prequels is kind of like a lot of people's admiration for a movie like The Room. I like it because of the weird shit that's in it. That's either clunky
Yeah.
dialogue or a silly action, or just like the thing I love earnestly, even though I do love it all earnestly, but it's not from a form of like irony, is the character design. But I think the dialogue is truly pretty awful. And I do think there's good performances in there, but Liam Neeson I think
Yeah.
gives the best performance, and he's killed in the first one. But there are a
Okay.
lot of
Yeah.
things to love. And I think that's where I
Yeah.
differentiate
No, that's
rather.
fair enough.
Is
That's
why
fair enough.
I think I understand what you're getting at, where it's like not wanting to put something in a box of good or bad. That I differentiate quality with how much I like it. Like my four favorite films are not the movies I would say like, oh, these are the best four films I've ever seen. They're just my four favorites. You know, Wally's on that list, and although Wally is a fantastic film, I don't think it's like one of the best. Same thing with the Muppets Christmas Carol. That's on my top four. And obviously, like, it's not even the best Muppets movie, probably, but there's so much I love about it. So much, like, everyone's got their fingerprints in it. And I think that is, and when it comes to Star Wars as well, like, my favorite Star Wars movie is not, if you ask me what the best one was, it'd be like Empire Strikes Back. But I don't hold a lot of emotional reverence for that one, so it's not my favorite.
Mm.
That's where I'm at with that. And the reason I'm saying it is because, like I said earlier, this podcast is at the very beginning of the week, and I try to go see movies on Friday or over the weekend, and I'm gonna try and go back to that. Hopefully the Barnyard video is finished by that point. And on Sunday is when I watch shows that are coming out. So I don't really love binging, or I can't really watch shows by myself, I suppose, unless I'm like fully just not engaged with it. So I like seeing an episode of a show every week, and a lot of them come out on Sunday. And what I've been doing the last couple of years is just every time there's a new episode of a show, I save it for Sunday and then watch it in one long block. So Monday or Super Tuesday is the perfect time to talk about the stuff I've seen in the previous week. What I was getting at is that we are now 3 or so days, maybe 2, away from being 1/3 of the way through this year, through 2025. And although I know you haven't been watching or playing as much, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to begin my tier list of all forms of art this year, and thus explaining them to my co-host. This is every
Okay.
show, movie, and game that is released this year that I
Okay.
have at the very least started in the order I did. I'm not going to rank pieces I haven't completed yet with an asterisk, of course, like within reason. So that leaves some out. But I've got like 30 things here either way. And yet I still feel like I'm behind because I haven't finished a lot of it. I'm going to share my screen with you, and then I'm going to ask you if you have any recollection of anything currently on this screen.
I'm about to embarrass myself. You guys are gonna laugh at me. Everyone's gonna laugh at me, but I don't give a shit. Okay, so I have played. I haven't played the remake, but I played Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Okay.
I actually haven't seen it yet, but I'm definitely planning to watch the rehearsal.
Yes.
Because I actually watched season 1 last year. It's funny. I watched it on the plane in December, and I watched the last 2 episodes, and I'm like, wow, I'm like flying somewhere now. I'm in like a really like somber fucking mood.
Yeah, I thought you were going to talk
I
about
didn't
season 2 of the rehearsal is about like airline disasters, like sort of like.
Oh wow, I
The
didn't know
framing
that.
device.
didn't
And
know
I
that.
started watching the first episode before I was flying back from Vegas, and my wife was like, "Let's stop watching this. Let's wait till we get home to watch this."
Yeah. Also, I've seen Invincible season 3. It's season 3, right? Yeah, season 3.
Yes.
I think that's it though. I kind of wanted to watch Daredevil, but I didn't because I think I watched like all the Marvel TV Netflix shows back in like 2018 up till like The Punisher, and I think I stopped there. I kind of fell out of it, and I think that's before Daredevil season 3. So I
Yeah.
never watched season 3. So I never watched Born. So I decided not to watch Born again. It's kind of the reason I don't like get into a lot of things these days.
I I guess I'll talk about it now. I haven't finished Born Again, so it won't be on the list yet. But my understanding of it is that it was going to be like the more Disney Marvel team. It was a different writing team. But then they
Yeah, I
didn't
know
like
that
how it
part.
was going. So they brought
Yeah.
in the original team for the Netflix Daredevil, but they only worked on the first, eighth, and ninth episode. So watching the show, I'm like, I watched
What the
episode
fuck?
one, and I'm like, man, this is really exciting. And then afterwards, it's just fallen off a cliff. Like, I do not care
That's
for it. And I
crazy. That's
think
crazy. I didn't know that part.
if I end up watching things this Sunday, that I am now on the eighth episode of it, so hopefully it like gets better. But I like earlier this year, leading because I never watched it, watched all of Daredevil season 1 and 2. And I think after that is when like the spin-off or not the spin-off shows, but the other
The
Defender
Defenders, I
shows,
think.
and then the Defenders, and
Yeah.
then season 3. But I just gave up at that point. Like I didn't watch season 3 either. But you
Yeah,
only
that's
really
the
need to
reason I'm
understand
like,
the basic relationship of the main trio and the Kingpin, and Frank Castle as well.
yeah. Yeah, because Frank Castle's a big part of it, and I don't know. That's why it's like so hard to get into it. Because I'm like, man, I have like, I have like homework to do about a bunch of shows that came out like 10 years ago.
Yeah. That's why I
It's
try and
okay.
like schedule it for myself, like see a movie on Friday and then watch all the shows on Sunday. Because in my day-to-day like editing live, I'm like, yeah, exactly, like watching older shows, and it doesn't really give me a lot of time to engage with new stuff, which is why I do
Yeah.
my best to do this. So
Yeah,
there's a
and
lot of stuff.
also I'll be
Hmm.
totally honest. Like a lot of the fucking Marvel TV stuff kind of sucks. Like no one really likes. I don't remember liking Iron Fist season 1 that much. Jessica Jones was good. I didn't like at least the first. I think it was 2 seasons of Luke Cage. I didn't really enjoy Luke Cage. The Defenders show wasn't even that. I don't know. There's just like a lot of stuff that's just kind of sour to go through. And you're like, I guess I'm supposed to watch this. I don't
Yeah.
know. I
It did
fell out of
feel a
it. I
lot
fell
like
out of it.
homework where I'm like, I don't care about the Defenders really. So I'll just watch where I was. And I guess like that's why it feels a little of two minds that like they wanted initially to make a MCU Daredevil or a modern MCU Daredevil that's more in line with like just the character played by Charlie Cox and more in line with what they were going for. But it
Yeah,
didn't turn out as they wanted or didn't turn out the quality they wanted, so they circled back to making it more in the Netflix universe. And because of that,
it's
it's
definitely
very
a
muddled.
sloppy way of something happening. In general, I mean, to be fair, I will say, one thing I'm not being kind of like harsh on myself. I
Hmm.
care about cape shit a lot more than I sometimes wish I did.
Oh, me
Um,
too. I'm
so
emotionally attached to these
I
characters.
remember when Far From Home came out. No, No Way Home. No Way Home's the No Way Home's the 2021 one. I remember when they fucking, like showed Charlie Cox's Daredevil for the first time in a few years. I screamed.
Yeah,
I'm not
they do
ashamed to
the
admit
little
that. I
reveal.
screamed. I was
There are a lot of movies like that
young
that don't
then.
really hold up when you watch at home, but like
Yeah.
after I got out of that theater, I didn't want to like, oh, I can't wait for it to come to streaming. I would just watch people's like reactions and like blurry cam footage because that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to hear. I wanted to be there for it.
Yeah.
So a
No, I
lot
mean,
of
I
these.
rewatched. Oh,
Mhm.
you go.
Oh, I'll just put.
No, I watched.
You keep talking. I'll put Kunk on Earth
Yeah.
in B. It wasn't as good as Kunk on Life. And then Abbott season 4 is still, or it's finished, but I don't think I finished it. Goosebumps, the Shivering or whatever it's called. I wanted to watch the first Disney season before I watched the second one, and I haven't even finished that because a bunch of other stuff came out and it really got pushed down the totem pole. So I haven't finished that. Stugo is still airing. I really like Stugo. I think by the time the series ends and I come back to this tier list, this is something I want to update regularly, maybe on the show. I think Stugo is going to be very
Which show
high.
is Hugo again?
It's the Disney TV animated show where it's a bunch of kids on an island. It is very absurd. I would just recommend watching it. It's one of those cartoons that's like, yeah, it's just funny. I think there was a period of
Uh-huh.
time where not every, I'm exaggerating, but the only cartoons that got the time of day, and granted that's still the case, were like very story focused ones. And
Uh-huh.
I love a silly cartoon, and Stugo is episodic and very funny. There are bits in it that made me legitimately laugh. And I think that's enough to
Okay.
put it in A.
Okay.
The SNL 50 documentary I really liked because it's weird. I don't even watch SNL. I don't think I've watched an episode in its entirety. But in my household, it was such like an important piece of lore. Like my mom liked it,
Okay.
and like we would constantly reference it and like reenact skits. I respect SNL as like an institution. I think I'm glad that it's still going. I think there's a lot of modern shows that people are like, oh man, just end this thing. I think it's interesting to have a show go on constantly like that. And I think it's a
Yeah,
modern
definitely.
American institution where Like every comedians get filed through it, and then they don't go into Hollywood as much as they used to, but like you see blossoming comedians there honing their craft, and I think it's really fun. There was one episode, there was like a 4 episode docu-series, and it was really informative. But there was one episode of SNL 50 that was a parody of like Hollywood biopics. Not a Hollywood biopic, but like a documentary where everyone was pretending it was super important. All the comedians were talking about the sketch like it was the most important thing ever. Except for Kimmel. I think he legitimately believed that, or sorry, Fallon, I don't know, one of them legitimately believed that it was the most important thing ever. I don't know if he was in on the joke. But it's weird to have that episode that's like purposefully satirizing that, and then all the other episodes are actually talking about it with importance. Like, I find it interesting, but I think it would have been funnier if the entire thing was a parody. So I'm going to put it in C, maybe.
Okay.
Wolfman, Blumhouse's Wolfman, I really liked. The more distance I get from it, the more I don't dislike it, but the less I care for it. And this is going to happen. This is why I want to update this tier list as I go, is because sometimes you just forget about a movie. And this came out, this is the first new movie I saw in theaters, because the week prior I saw Nosferatu, and that was technically a 2024 picture. So Wolfman was the first 2025 movie I saw. I'll put it in A, I think, because I really liked it. And maybe I was just defending it more because I saw it with my roommates and they did not like it. But I did a lot.
Uh-huh.
The Chibiverse Season 3, I have not finished. And even if I did watch all the episodes, I don't think they're finished airing because only 3 episodes have aired so far. So I'm going to leave that there. Severance Season 2. I don't know if you've heard or seen anything about Severance.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's definitely worth watching, even to like the average person who doesn't really watch TV shows anymore. I think Severance, I was going to say, this is why I brought it up earlier and why I really wanted to do this, is because if you just like talked to me after the Switch pre-order, I would have been like, yeah, let's talk about that. But ever since then, I watched Sinner in theaters, ecstatic about all of those, and I thought like, oh man, Severance is the best show on television. And maybe like How Soon We Forget, right? I didn't like season 2 as much as I like season 1, not because it's bad, just because season 1 is that spectacular. But there were moments when watching the rehearsal season 2 that I locked in. I leaned up from my chair and I was like, oh my god. I haven't, obviously it hasn't finished airing yet. Neither has The Last of Us, but I don't really, did you ever play The Last of Us games?
Did I need to? I need to, but I haven't.
I don't really have any strong feelings about I mean, I think the show is better than the games, probably.
Wow, really?
I think so. Well, I don't know. I think the first season of the show is better than the second game. So maybe the second season might like eventually just spin its wheels and fall apart. I'm not necessarily in love with it right now, but not because of like any like writing purposes. I just don't particularly care. You're Amazing, or Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. You may have heard something about this, about the person who plays Spider-Man was quoted in an interview and saying like, oh, I'm glad that this new Spider-Man isn't woke or annoying. Apparently that is a misquote. And he didn't say that, or he said something like mocking it. I don't know. The show is fine. Put it in B. I finished it in its entirety. There's stuff in the finale I really like, and there's individual character moments I like. I think B is probably fine, maybe above Kunk on Life, because I haven't really thought about that since I watched it. Companion, I think when I was doing my individual movie ranking, I put it beneath Wolfman. But the more I think about it, I might put it above Wolfman. Again, How Soon We Forget. Maybe I just haven't seen Wolfman again in a long time. Maybe I'll rewatch and switch it around, but I think for now I'll put Companion above Wolfman. Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. I have to view it as a re-release of a game. I think Donkey Kong Country Returns, I already don't love because of the motion controls that are required. And I held no reverence for Donkey Kong Country, so it coming back didn't mean a lot to me. I like Tropical Freeze way more. And it being an HD re-release of like a 3DS game, it doesn't really do a lot. It's like, it's built on decent... Where would you put it, I suppose I'll ask?
Well, I'd probably put it like a B or an A, to be honest. I mean, for me personally, I haven't played Returns since like 2018 though, so it's been a good minute.
I was gonna put it in D or F.
Oh wow, really? You just don't like it that much?
Well, this is also Returns HD, like the specific $60 like Switch re-release.
Yeah, I mean for $60, it's ridiculous. Like if that's a consideration, you should put that in F, bro. I'll
okay, that's what I was arguing. Yeah. Well, I want to know why you like put the game by itself in A or B. I'm gonna cough while
Well,
you're
I
saying
think it's a
this.
really fun game. I love the Donkey Kong games. I don't know if I prefer it over Tropical Freeze. I don't I haven't really thought about like which one I prefer that deeply.
Hmm.
But it's good fun. It was a fun return to form for Donkey Kong 2. It'd been a good minute since the last Donkey Kong Country game. Although on the Wii with the kind of shaking controls, I mean that was a little bit uncomfortable. But with the 3DS version, you didn't have to worry about that. It's fun to play. I played it really fast too. I mean, Donkey Kong is fun and challenging too. I mean, everyone says it's more challenging than Mario, so it kind of has like its own kind of thing going on. So yeah, no, I think it's fun. I like Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Okay. Yeah, I guess like I the 3DS one probably is the best one, and that's why this is kind of just a port of that. Although it's a little
Yeah.
obnoxious to be a 3DS port, it's just nothing. It doesn't mean nothing to me. I'll save the
Okay.
wrestling ones for later. Common side effects. I watched all of season one. I think that it's not bad in the early season, but it is backweighted a little bit, and it makes me more excited about the prospect of season two than the season one itself. So I think S tier is reserved for really the best of the best. So I think
Hmm.
I'll put Common Side Effects at the very top of A tier because it was very good. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaurs season 2 or season 2B because I thought I was done with season 2. I didn't know they were still making episodes. I knew that there was a trans episode that they deleted and then people
I
watched on
heard
the
about
Internet
that.
Archive. And I thought that was just a part of the batch that was supposed to be the end. I didn't know there was another. So I haven't finished season 2B yet. So it won't go up there. Invincible season 3,
Oh, I'm curious about this one.
top of B maybe?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because there's a lot of. Maybe it's because I didn't go back to rewatch like I did other shows. But there's only so much I care about in season. Like I think it's a little not unfocused, but rather not focused on things I necessarily care about. And I know it's going for the Venture Bros thing and what the comic did and trying to make this large world, this large expansive world. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that appear in season 3 that I don't remember or don't really care to see.
Mm. I guess I think I'd say I have a similar thing. I mean, there's cool things that it moved in the direction of, but for example, I don't want to talk about spoilers, but let's say, the prison situation. I
Yeah.
hope that we get more out of it than we got. You know what I mean? I guess that's the one thing is that, I mean, other than the last couple episodes, which were really fun, a lot of the things going on were just kind of taking a few steps, and
Yeah.
that was it. I guess. I mean, I guess the first season was really framed by his conflict with the Omni-Man stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and ever since then they've
Sure.
kind of been sprawling out a little bit, which I guess is probably good in certain ways. I just there were a couple episodes that came out, and for me personally, I was like, well, nothing here really
Yeah.
excited me that much.
It could be another a victim of what I chose to do, which is I chose to watch shows weekly. I watch an episode a week, and I did that with the Scott Pilgrim cartoon that came out, or the anime, even though I don't know if it is an anime. Came out on Netflix, and everyone like binged it one day, and I was really difficult to avoid spoilers. But I think watching it weekly was the best way to go about it. And
Hmm.
Invincible season 3, I think, began with a 2 or 3 episode premiere. And watching that weekly, it doesn't really kick off until the end of the second or third episode. So
Yeah.
I know that was built into it, but like the first episode didn't really stand out, and the second one, I'm like, oh, thank God. By the end, I'm like, okay, things are gonna start happening now. Especially, I don't know how many seasons they plan on having. I guess if it's, I don't know, because I know the boys, the next season might, I think it is the final season of the
They're planning for it
boys.
to be the last one. Yeah.
Right, because I know it's the people that worked on Supernatural, and they're like, we're not gonna let that happen again. We're gonna end the show on our terms. I don't know how long Invincible plans. I know there's a lot of comic issues for Invincible,
Yeah.
so maybe it's gearing up for something very massive. But
I wouldn't
there
be
are,
surprised if they're willing to kind of take Invincible as far as it'll go. I wouldn't be
mhm.
surprised, but
I mean, I hope
I
they
mean,
get to do
it's
everything they
pretty
want
early on
to. It's kind
for
of
sure.
my interest for it was a little dashed when season 2 came out, and like season 2A and B, and then I just didn't give me
Yeah,
enough opportunity to like build up steam. I just didn't care. And then when season 3 came around, I was not, I didn't remember these characters. I think this show could really benefit from like a previously on. Or maybe it does do that.
hmm
I can't remember. But unfortunately, I'm going to put Dogman, the animated feature, above that in A tier. It's going to be at
Was
the
it
bottom
that
of A
good?
tier. Dogman? Yeah, I really liked it.
Okay, I
I'll
never
get
read the books. I
I
read some of the other Dave Pilkey stuff though. I read
I
a lot
did
of Captain
too.
America
I
fan.
love Dov Pilkey. I didn't. I don't think I. Maybe I did read Dogman. But the reason I liked the film was not like nostalgia or anything. But I do want to circle back to this in a later film because I want to use it as a defense for myself. But
Okay.
now we have. Have you seen Captain America: Brave New World?
I was considering it, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't.
That's what we were talking about earlier. Is that like I have way more emotional attachments to these characters. Twitch chat saying seeing Dogman over Invincible hurts me. Well, you should check out Dogman. It's not in theaters anymore, but you should check. I think it's better. I know it's better, in fact. But I have like emotional attachments that I made when I was like 14 to Sebastian Stan's character and Anthony Mackie's character. And it's so strange to me
Okay.
that they're releasing a movie with Anthony Mackie in the starring role and Sebastian Stan in the starring role, of course, alongside Florence Pugh. A couple months apart, when it probably would have been more impactful if they just had a movie of those two together. And I know they had an entire show together, and spoilers for Captain America, but Bucky does show up in like one scene. That was apparently a reshoot. But I don't know if you know this. The major third act twist, I'm going to spoil this movie for you. The major
Whoa.
third act twist, the mystery leading up this film, you're always wondering what's wrong with this guy, what's going to happen. The major third act twist of this movie is that Harrison Ford turns into the Red Hulk.
What? What? What?
So I
Yeah.
was sitting there in the theater. I'm like, man, I wish I didn't know this. Like it's on the commercial. Like I know it happens.
Yeah.
Even before I
Yeah.
went to go
No.
see this movie, I've been posting it in my server for months, being like, "Oh, guys, the Red Hulk movie. Who wants to go see Red Hulk?" Like that was the meme, and it's that's supposed to be. I think they just didn't have faith in this movie, and
I
granted,
haven't
it's not
seen
a
them.
bad
Well,
movie
it
because
got reshot like a billion times. It's also probably why they're doing the whole Anthony Mackie and like Bucky Barnes, or I'm like
yeah,
using one actor's name and the like character's name for the other person. I think one of the
they're
reasons they're
friends.
doing that is because like they like delayed the new the Captain America 4 like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So there's just happenstance.
Hmm.
But I mean, admittedly I haven't seen the movie. I've heard people talk about it. But like other than Red Hulk, like what would they try and sell the movie with? I think that's one of the reasons they decided to like just be so forthcoming with it,
Yeah.
because I don't know. I mean, that seems to be the best. What they benefit from for the most part when it comes to selling these movies or kind of exciting people is these kind of fun characters showing up.
Yeah.
So Red Hulk being working better as a plot twist as narratively is probably true, but I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine what they try and decorate this movie with in terms of promotion otherwise without the
Hmm.
Red Hulk.
There are actually, now that I'm looking at my ranking, two movies that are not featured on my list, so I can add those eventually, but we'll circle back to that. This is something we were talking about before when it comes to plot holes, plot points, or whatever. And it comes to absurdism. I had The Monkey as the top of my list for a while. The Monkey is
Okay.
a horror comedy, so it's a very absurd world. The entire thing is drenched in absurdism, and there's so many
Okay.
good bits in that movie that I don't even want to spoil. But there's so many that I laughed out loud in the theater. I genuinely really love that movie. Like there's I'm trying to think of an example because I haven't seen it in a while, but the idea is that the monkey, it's sort of like Final Destination. It makes you die in inconspicuous ways. And there's a lot of funny deaths and a lot of funny moments in the movie. And my favorite, I think, is when they were talking about the death of this one guy. And they're like, yeah, he went camping out in the middle of the woods in the dark. And you're like, oh man, what happened to him? And then they explain what happened to his death. And he got trampled by 74 horses or something along that line. I think it's a really funny movie. And I really love absurdism. And that's why I really liked Y2K last year as well, even though I don't think it was absurd enough. And a film like Bottoms from 2023. I really like it, and I think the monkey goes very high. Maybe it shouldn't be higher than Common Side Effects, but that's where I'm at. And now we get into a reign of things that I have not finished. Monster Hunter Wilds. I'll actually be back tomorrow on stream to continue it. Maybe I'll finish it because I want to finish it before I start other games. This is my first major Monster Hunter game. I've really enjoyed it, but I haven't beaten it yet. Maybe I don't need to 100% it to put it on my list, but I will come back when I beat it. And I'll come back to Daredevil when I finish it. Star of Providence is not a game I beat, but it's sort of like Enter the Gungeon, where it's a would you call it a dungeon crawler? It's it's a shoot 'em up dungeon crawler. So although there is an end of the game, every time you play the game it's different, and it's more about just doing better each time. So I do think I've got the brunt of this game, and I do think I'll put it above Wolfman. I think it was really good. Jellystone Season 3B I've liked so far, but I haven't finished. On my ranking here on Letterboxd, I have Mickey 17 above the monkey. However, I think I liked the monkey more than I liked Mickey 17. These are just personal movie opinions. I had no like expectations for Bong Joon-ho, and I think that's the reason why some of my friends and roommates didn't necessarily love it as much as I did. It's because you watch a movie like Parasite and you expect it to be way larger. But it just wasn't. But I liked what it was. YOLO Rainbow Trinity, I have now finished. I've watched all of season 3. And I don't know if I'm going to make a video sort of related, but not the topic I normally talk about. So I'll say this now. YOLO Season 3's finale, which might be the series finale, it kind of felt like it, is a musical episode in title, and there's a lot of songs in it. None of the songs last longer than like a minute, or if not a handful of seconds. But I think the purpose of the songs is that there's purposefully they sound like they were thrown together. That's what I said in my Adult Swim video about the future of Adult Swim being bright. Is when I was describing YOLO, it seems simultaneously labored over and thrown together, and that's what I really like about it. I really liked that episode. And I feel like I had something else to say about it. Oh, it's a Wizard of Oz musical, which is a point I coined in the first musical video because they slowly accumulate characters. I think season 3 as a whole, I'll put in high B because it's not my favorite season of YOLO. I did like it more than Invincible. That's why these things are kind of hard to rank, is how much you value comedy over other things. So the person who watches Invincible would see like, man, YOLO better than Invincible, no way. But I derived more enjoyment from YOLO than I did Invincible. And that's not me saying that Invincible needs to be funny or uplifting. I still think feeling a strong emotion is enjoyable when you're playing a game or watching a show. It just didn't grab me. I don't know if I finished Oh My God Yes. I really don't plan on it. I'm going to put it top of F. I thought it was really unfunny and ugly.
What was it?
It's a new Adult Swim animated show, and it kind of looks like one of those Comedy Central FX shows. And it just really, I hope every cartoon gets multiple seasons. I hope it finds its footing. I hope it wins me over, because I think the most recent episode I watched I did actually like. So maybe it gets its second wind. Maybe F is too cruel, but it's an F because I went to go see what other people were saying about it, because nobody was tweeting about it. I felt like I was the only one seeing it, me and the people in my server. And then I went to IMDb, and all of the reviews were written by different accounts that had like the same combination of names, and they were all overwhelmingly positive. So I'm like, something has to be going on here.
That's probably normal these days, as much as I hate to admit it. Like,
The Day the Earth Blew Up, I like more on principle than I do as a film. So I'm going to put it beneath Dogman, which is how it is on my Letterboxd ranking. Because I'm sure you know this was going to be a 2D animated film that was going to be released in theaters, and then David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Bros. And Warner Bros. At large, wanted to axe the film and do another tax write-off. But then the indie distributor Catch Up Entertainment bought the rights to this film and distributed it in theaters. And I saw the movie, and I would see it multiple times. I'm trying to bring people to go see it. I don't know if it's showing in theaters anymore. I support this, and I'm glad it happened. However, it's a movie I like more in principle. I did like the movie, but not as much as I like Dogman or Wolfman or Companion or Mickey 17 or The Monkey. I think it's really good. If you asked me like 5 years ago, I would have put the 2D animated film above the 3D animated film just on principle. But I do think Dogman is a better movie. Do you remember? There's a distinct era where if you were online, like every 3D animated film, you would turn up your nose a little bit and be like, oh, they're doing this again.
Dude, yeah, and honestly, I don't entirely blame myself because, dude, as much as I hate to admit it, or I don't hate to admit it. There was definitely a culture, at least in stuff that I watched as a kid, of just really ugly 3D animated shows. You know what I mean? That I got sick of it. I've never been much of an Illumination guy. I mean, to be fair, I mean, it's not like they have like the best reputation, but I don't know. I've always preferred the kind of like Disney approach of things being pretty. Yeah. And even then,
I was excited about this film too, because I don't think in my entire lifetime I've seen. Well, that's not true. I was gonna say seen like a 2D animated film or a predominantly 2D animated film in theaters, like a theatrical release. But the second SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, was heavily marketed with the 3D animated like superhero, like, oh, they're gonna go to the beach and become superheroes. But that only is like the climax of the movie. Most of the movie is a 2D animated feature film.
I didn't know that. I always
Also,
assumed. I never watched it, so I didn't know that.
that movie's actually really good. Also, I did see Teen Titans Go to the movies when it came out in theaters. And that was a fully 2D animated film. And I remember at the time supporting it, even though I didn't and still don't really like Teen Titans Go, because I was excited about the prospect of there being a Cartoon Network film in theaters. Again, because the last time it happened, it was Aqua Teen and it bombed. Literally and figuratively. And or for lack of a better term. And it was also a 2D animated film. I was happy that Teen Titans Go to the Movies was doing well because it was a 2D theatrical film. And we didn't see that a lot, even though it was Teen Titans Go to the Movies, which I don't even like on principle. Like, I just like I think it is a funny movie. I think it's the best thing Teen Titans Go ever made. I have not. Last of Us is still airing as we speak. The Rehearsal is still airing as we speak. I imagine this is probably going to be S tier. That's what I was saying, is that like Severance season 2, I'm like, this is the best thing on television. And then it ended, and then I've been watching The Rehearsal. I'm like, man, this is the best thing on television. I'm going to get these two.
I'm probably gonna. I'm probably gonna watch The Rehearsal like in the next couple days, at least so far. What's going on in season 2? Because I haven't picked it up yet.
I have to remember to add these because I guess they were missing from my calendar, but they're on my letterbox. Our films that I saw in 2025 are Opus, Last Breath, and The Last Showgirl. Opus I have on my list beneath Looney Tunes but above Captain America, and then Last Breath is beneath Opus but above Captain America, and Last Showgirl is beneath Captain America. There is one movie I have that is at the very bottom of my list, but before I do that, I'm going to put Black Mirror Season 7 at the top of B, because it's kind of like modern Always Sunny or Futurama, where as long as it has 1 or 2 episodes that I really, really like, I think it warrants existing. And although I think the majority of Black Mirror Season 7 either doesn't need to exist or I just don't really care for, I think there are 2. Granted, I'm saying this, there's 6 episodes in the season, and 2 or 3 of them are some of like the best in the show. There are at the very least 2 fantastic episodes. One with Rashida Jones and one with Paul Giamatti that I think are really great. And the rest are kind of good to okay to bad. But I think I'll put it in B just because it's an anthology series. Have you ever watched Black Mirror?
No, but I know about it.
It's a horror anthology sci-fi series. So you have to, if you're judging the season as a whole, you have to judge it by some of its parts. And it has really high highs and kind of mediocre lows. Nothing in it is terrible, aside from there was one episode I thought was really, really bad. It was the penultimate one. I don't remember what it was called or even what happened in it. Really, hold on. Let me look into this because I want to make sure I call out these writers in particular. These 3 writers, season 7, and okay, now just show me what the season is. Season 7. Okay, all right, Wikipedia. There it is. I gotta remember to add the other movies to it. Episodes, list of episodes, and I'll go to season 7, where I was or what I'm watching. No, I also really liked that one. Okay, I'm wrong. The second episode I didn't really care for, the Bête Noire. But I've gone on enough of these, so I'll save individual reviews if people have any more questions. Now, everything on this top row, aside from like wrestling stuff, which I'll put in, I liked the Chamber more than I liked the Rumble. Rumble kind of disappointed me. I'll put it beneath that. I was at WrestleMania. People who watched on TV said it was bad, but I was there and I liked it, so maybe I'm skewed a little bit, but I'll put it here beneath Spider-Man and above Coco Life, just because I liked the experience of being there, and when I saw it, I really liked the show. Now, most of the stuff on this list, the first couple things, are things that I've not completed yet. Earlier, I put Dogman really high, and you were surprised by this, despite it being, an animated film primarily geared towards children. It's just dumb fun. And that is a defense used for a lot of films. And I really liked Dogman. I, over the weekend, saw 3 films. I saw Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, I saw Sinners, and I saw a Minecraft movie. I'm saying this right now. I think Sinners is probably the best film of the year. Preemptively, I'm saying that.
Wow.
I think you should go see it. I think everyone should go see it. I think it's fantastic. Earlier you mentioned liking Community. The composer, or the on-set composer that made a lot of songs for Community, also did the soundtrack for Sinners. And even if it doesn't
Oh,
win, it's
cool.
not going to be nominated for Best Picture because it's a horror film. But I think it deserves at least Best Score, Best Original Song. He also did the score for Oppenheimer, for Black Panther, for Creed, Turning Red. Yeah, Ludwig Göransson is fantastic. I think he's like, it might be too early to say, but like the modern like main composer you go to. Maybe not John Williams level just because they're in different camps, but like there is one song in Sinners that just it shot me up out of my seat. Sinners is fantastic, and this is before the new Avatar comes out, before Weapons comes out. I'm excited for Weapons. I think Sinners, and maybe I'm just going to stand by this because I said it so early. I think Sinners is going to stand the test of time of the best film of 2025 from my perspective. Last year, I
Cool.
saw Dune Part 2 really early in the year. And after that, it kind of got pushed farther and farther down my ranking because I forgot about it. I don't think I'm going to forget about this. It's staying up here. It's actually, it's better than Severance Season 2. It's the best thing I've seen this year. That being said, we're going to sandwich this together to end it off. I think a Minecraft movie is like the worst thing I've seen this year. I think the movie is terrible. It's not fun. There are bits in it that I like because the director is obviously the director of Nacho Libre and Napoleon Dynamite. And the best parts of this movie are the non-Minecraft parts when they're in like the weird small town, the esoteric Napoleon Dynamite like stickiness to it. But a Minecraft movie is terrible. I've seen so many people talk about it online and also trash movie theaters. I worked at a movie theater, so I find it really obnoxious and annoying. Although I do like
Oh
having the
yeah.
theater experience. Luckily, I went like weeks after. The movie's making $1 billion or whatever. And Sinners, which is also Warner Bros., is, I could be misquoting this, but I think the highest grossing original film, like not based on any other source material, since Gravity in 2013, which
What?
is huge because everything else has been
That,
based on a book or a show or a character or a movie or a musical, anything like that.
but I forgot that Gravity was a movie that existed. I'm gonna be honest
Yeah.
with you. It's been so
But that's
long.
crazy to me too. Like if somebody said like, "Oh, since this thing in 2018," I would believe it because like, yeah, pandemic hit stuff really hard. But no, like since 2013. Anyway, I think everyone should go see Sinners. I'm saying that now that is a Switch 2 Ultra, BH Ultra Decree. I kind of want to go see it again while it's still in theaters if I have the time. Maybe I'll sneak another one in there. And I've seen people defend the Minecraft movie, including my friends and roommates. It's just like, oh, it's like fun or enjoyable. My one roommate said he said it's about the same quality as the Mario movie. And I'm saying this is not even like, I'm not even saying this is like a hardcore Mario fan. The Mario movie at least is pretty to look at. I think you mentioned Illumination earlier, and I think that in the modern era, Illumination makes some of like the prettiest animated films, 3D animated
You're
films.
probably right. Yeah, I'm thinking more about like earlier Illumination, like the
Yeah.
the early Despicable Me movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Mario movie was gorgeous. I mean, that's not an issue at all.
Yeah.
Let me
Whereas the
think.
Minecraft movie feels like it's a commercial from 2012 filmed on like a rolling green screen or something. It's just awful. I don't know. I want to put it down here to prove a point. It's probably better than Donkey Kong Country Returns. And there were
Yeah.
more bits in it I liked than Oh My God, Yes. There were individual bits I thought were funny. There's a bit when they're in the classroom in the opening, and like the meme is that the main kid is his creativity is being stifled, and he's doing science and math to make a jetpack, and there's a kid next to him who says like, "Dude, you're doing math? My dad says math has been debunked." I think that's funny. There are bits in it that are funny. Basically, as soon as they go to Minecraft, it stops being funny, for the most part. I think Sinners is the best movie of the year, and Minecraft is at the bottom of my list. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I've seen so many people talk about how much they enjoyed it and say like, "Oh, it's just dumb fun for kids." But movies like Looney Tunes and Dogman are dumb fun for kids, and those I think are legitimately good movies. This argument comes up a lot when it comes to discussing animated films specifically for children. And I think my stance on it is that I think they're fine to discuss and kind of dissect. But you shouldn't be in an actual kid's space or face, right? Like when I talked about Teen Titans Go earlier, I really don't like that show, but I would never see a kid watching it and be like, you're going to watch Steven Universe instead. Let me put something else on. Because I remember watching Johnny Test as a kid, and everyone around me hated it, and everyone online hated it. And it just made me want to go to it more and defend it more and like it more. There are things I
Interesting. I was
dislike.
I was the opposite. There was shit that I felt pressured into not liking. I think.
I
At
did
least when
get
I was a
that
little younger.
eventually, but
Yeah.
as much as I love Nintendo, I think he's genuinely one of the best people in the cartoon community making content right now. I still don't like Fanboy and Chum Chum. Maybe I hold a vendetta against it since I
Dude,
was a kid.
I don't think. Well, I mean, to be fair, I haven't kept up with the fanboy and chum chum stuff.
The
I think
discourse.
like there is no way you're gonna make me like fanboy and chum chum.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. It's just an example of like Nickelodeon not getting it at that point in time,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm thinking to myself like, I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, obviously, Avatar: The Last Airbender is a great show. Korra, like, there's a lot of things people don't like about it, and I probably don't like about it either. It's not like just like nauseating to me in the same way a lot of the shows on Nickelodeon, cartoons specifically on Nickelodeon were at that time.
Yeah.
Like
Irritating.
Fanboy and Chum Chum is like just it's first of all ugly to look at. I mean the poop hair and stuff like Chum
Mm-hmm.
Chum's poop hair, but also it's just I don't know, like, oh wow, they wear underwear, like that's hilarious. I don't know. I just hate that style of humor, and I hated it as a kid.
Mm-hmm. I hated it as
I'm
a
like
kid
really
too.
opinionated about this.
That's fine, dude. That's the thing is that I still have the same stance. I think there's constantly revisionist history of
Yeah.
cartoons.
Well,
Is
you're
like
seeing.
the older the internet gets, or rather the older the people who grew up in, because the internet is kind of, this might be biased, but I feel like it's kind of run by 20-year-olds. That's where the discourse comes from, and that's why you see
Yeah.
things like, man, like Cars 2 is actually pretty solid. You see discourse like that,
You
because
guys just
people
weren't
grew up with them.
there.
Yeah,
You
like,
guys
oh
just
man,
weren't
you
there
didn't
for
get
Cats
it.
and Dogs, Revenge of Kitty Galore.
And
Like,
we're gonna
dude,
see
like,
a lot of that in the coming years when we get older,
Dude, I
and
mean,
then kids who
no,
grew up with stuff that
exactly.
we've never seen is like, this thing's actually kind of slept on.
Because I remember, I mean, to be honest, Hey Arnold's a good show, but I remember, when I was a kid, like I was like 12, like,
Yeah.
oh man, Hey Arnold was probably one of the best. I like had this opinion that Hey Arnold was one of the best shows on Nickelodeon's history, and that was just an inherited opinion. I saw this tweet I think yesterday where someone's like, those people born from 1997 to 2003 really had the best of both worlds in terms of technology. I'm like, shut up, dude. I don't know, because the top comment on that post, I'm talking so much shit, was
It's
like, I
fine.
think it should go until 2005, and I just love
Yeah.
how this conversation is always like, but me too, right? It's
Everyone
like
has that
the
cut off.
guy
We were
born.
scrolling TikTok and like looking at these nostalgia edits, and it was really funny how the years would change. How it'd be like kids born in 2000 to 2020, and then kids born from 2020 to 2025. I'm like, okay, so 4-year-old. What do you mean?
It's like, dude, these 4-year-olds are just like
Yeah,
out
and
of
then I saw
control.
one that was like it was a decrepit rundown spot, and it said like 2020 to 25, and the thing before it said like 2015 to 2019, and it was like a blossoming garden. I'm like, that's not. Dude, I was a teenager in those years, and even I'm like, I don't understand the reference for 2016. It's so strange.
Oh
to me.
yeah, no, you're seeing it so much these days. It's like the worst day in 2016, and yeah, it's like the most. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's when you were a kid.
Obviously,
That's where it's coming
this is
from.
this is a nostalgia. I mean, I'll admit, it's not super. It's a bit of a social faux pas to admit it these days. But I remember the day Content Cop Keemstar came out. That was fun, and it's funny because like I remember that era of like YouTube drama. It's funny because it's coming back with like some recent stuff. A lot of notable figures are kind of taking up the mantle again.
The
But
content
I
cop.
do genuinely wonder, is that like when I was watching that as a teenager, is that just what all this, like, I don't know, like Sneeko Aiden Ross drama is nowadays, or you know what I mean? It's like
guess.
I assume it's just the equivalent.
I hope
So
not.
I don't think shit's like gotten that much worse. I think I'm just 10 years older. You know what I mean?
I will say, I just feel strongly about that. I'll end the show on this. That's my ranking for now. We will circle back to it. As someone who creates videos for YouTube and live streams regularly, there's no contest. Streaming is nowhere near as difficult as making a video. I'm not saying streaming isn't difficult, but I hold way more respect for people who can formulate their, I don't even like drama content, but who can formulate their argument in an edited video, as opposed to like people on their live stream, like your Sneekos, your Aiden Rosses or whatever, who are all terrible people and just terrible for the youth in general. And I sound like I'm clutching my pearls here, but I do think it's really bad. Granted, I guess I do have more to say. I've seen people say like, man, it's really, really bad now. But I do think there were also people that were bad when we were kids that I was even a fan of, and I got out of it. I'm not even saying like, man, luckily I got out of there. And I understand that the alt-right pipeline is a real and dangerous thing, but I also don't think it's when you become an adult, it becomes a lot easier to not do that anymore. Like, I have a certain
Yeah.
grace period for, like, freshly new adults, like 18 to 20, I guess, where it's like you're still learning how to be an adult. You're still shaking off all those, like, teenage things. Because, like, I went to a very conservative Catholic school. And granted, I never, like, had any of those beliefs, but it definitely, like, imprinted on me. And it gave me a couple of years to, like, become a real, actual adult. And but I think maybe this is judgmental, but I think once you're an adult, like a fully fledged adult, or at least a blossoming adult, it's not that hard to escape the alt-right pipeline. Like, when you're a teenager, I get that, but when you're an adult and you turn back and you're like, oh, that shit's weird. Like, I don't think that's an uphill battle.
I think the only thing that could be stifling is if maybe you have a lot, like a support system in your life that kind of keeps you there.
Yeah.
So if you're like, if you join one of these, you know, if you're part of, like, I mean, this is a crazy example, but I'm thinking of, like, an example in which someone who's a white supremacist might have trouble not being a white supremacist. If you, like, live in some paramilitary fucking, you know, psycho shit,
Yeah,
and you kind of have to, like, put on a swastika, like, if you're in that situation, maybe. But I think in general, it's, unless you have, like, real social consequences in your life, I don't see how it's that difficult in terms of, you know, the difficulty of making the decision and kind of, you know, renouncing beliefs or whatever. I guess I would say that potentially there are people that are dense, or just, you know, really, people are stubborn, I would say. So I mean, I think, you know, it's sad, and I mean, I'm not thrilled to say it, but there are people out there who are really ardent about believing, you know, fucked up things. Yeah, I know we talk about the most crazy shit, but you know what I mean. I guess that's like my kind of, or maybe, response to what you just said.
Okay, well, I guess we'll wrap it up. We've covered enough stuff today. We're every time I'm like, man, I don't know if we're gonna fill this time, and then we're almost pushing 3 hours every time. Do you have any closing remarks before next week? I truly don't know what's gonna happen next week, because the pre-orders are in. They've happened. They've sold out.
Yeah, I think there might be more waves. So I mean, I'll let you guys know if I get my fucking hands on anything, or I just you know, relent and go for, you know, a scalper or something. But I probably won't do that. It's not worth it.
Either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
It's a
have
fucking
been
video game.
your co-parent, BH Ultra. Hopefully the video I'm working on will be out by the end of the week. I know it's bleeding into May, but just pretend it came out in April.
Yeah. Pretend it did. Do that for me. I'm excited for that video, by the way. I think it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that's more like entertainment focused, where I'm like, I bring this up in the video. I'm gonna say this one last time. I really don't like the titling of video essays. Like, I mean, calling them video essays, because I think a video essay needs to be built on a thesis of proving a point. And I think a lot of videos I make, whether it be like the viral gimmick horror game or the Clone Wars video, the template, the bones of the video is me experiencing something for the first time, bringing people along for the journey, and then forming my opinion by the end. And that's kind of what's going on with the Barnyard video. I'm not like, oh man, I have something really deep to say about the show. I'm writing it episode by episode. And your video on total drama, if you could believe it. You said it'll be a couple months, correct?
Probably, maybe more. I mean, I could see it being like August, September, or maybe even later. I have no idea. It really
summer
depends.
of Switchy.
It depends on. Yeah, it might not be a summer. Might be a Switchy Swatum or something. But
a Switchy September, maybe.
Switchy September. That's a good one. I might have to use that.
Make a video every day in September.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But you know, I mean, you know, they'll be done when it's done.
Yeah, and it'll be released when they're done. Well, like I said, we've been your co-parents. We have videos coming out. We will see you next Monday on a normal stream time. Maybe joined by other people. We shall see.